Chapter 1396. The Great Wisdom Sutra. Monk stood above the dead undead phoenix, no, white phoenix, with blood and burn marks all over his body. He had a grin, but the bloodthirsty aura emanating from his body made him more savage than satisfied. "You were a worthy opponent," Monk said. After entering the White Phoenix mode, White Phoenix embodied the word, Immortal. No matter how many severe injuries Monk placed on him, White Phoenix would heal from and continue fighting. He then used his terrifying regenerative power to learn during this fight, thus increasing his battle experience. White Phoenix showed he was a true genius at the very end of his life. He absorbed Monk's skills and experience like a sponge to use against him. Sadly, he woke up too late. A white light descended on Monk, healing his injuries and bringing clarity to his eyes. The influence on my personality was much higher than I anticipated. To prepare for this battle, he absorbed the experience of one of his ancestors, but while the latter was a battle genius, he was also a madman who cultivated the Tao of war and slaughter. His madness is still lingering in the back of my mind, Monk thought, realizing the effect might become lasting if he did nothing. He exhaled before looking in the distance. The good news is the Paragon Slayer title and all the luck and destiny of White Phoenix, Monk thought. He disappeared from this place, appearing outside. Young Khan saluted, an elderly man with strong muscles but way shorter than Monk. "How did everything go?" "Our people are now looting his palace." "Did anyone intervene?" "Yes, but we have dealt with it." "Any losses?" "Only minor ones." Monk nodded before thinking of something. "Did Wang Wei intervene?" "No." Lady Dulgun sent information that he would not participate, and so far, he has kept his word. "That's good to hear," Monk nodded. Their alliance has been proceeding well so far, and he did wish for something like this to end or affect it in any way possible. "Send me all the Buddhist books and artifacts we have in store," Monk ordered. However, the elderly man immediately became on guard after hearing his words. Monk noticed and understood the latter's reaction. The barbarian race had its own religion or spiritual practice that involved worshipping nature and ancestral spirits. However, their clan was more exclusive at some point and included Buddhism and Taoism gods in their fold. However, during Buddhism's catastrophe, where Maitreya went pseudo-mad and the power of faith influenced all monks, the Buddhist barbarians started a coup and almost conquered the clan. Since then, the barbarian race has forbidden the spread and use of any other religions in their practice. However, due to Maitreya's power and presence, the clan has lowered the restrictions over the years, allowing the study and understanding of Buddhism. However, practicing Buddhism is still taboo. The barbarian clan was composed of countless tribes. Although united, they also compete with each other. The position of Great Khan is the leader of all the tribes with immense power. Monk was the next Great Khan of their clan, meaning their future leader. The last thing they would want was for him to have a deep relationship with Buddhism. "The effects of the memories are more severe than I anticipated," Monk explained. "And Buddhism is the fastest way to restrain or eliminate the effect." Their clan had ways to deal with the problem, but that would require a ceremony that takes time and effort. Monk understood the emergency nature of the current situation, so he wanted to be back in peak condition as soon as possible. "As you wish," nodded the elderly man. Monk did not return to his tribe but teleported to the War God Temple. This was the source of his memories, which contained some measures to suppress the effect. He received what he asked for and immediately dived into the content. Not surprisingly, Monk found a mind purification mantran and used it, along with a few artifacts. However, he was unsatisfied with the speed and continued reading more scripture to improve this mantra. Monk suddenly paused. A few thousand yuan epochs ago, before this era became chaotic, he had an inspiration for an idea that could change his life. He believed the idea was what he needed to close the gap between himself and Wang Wei. However, that idea always eluded him like a turtle trying to catch a rabbit. "It's coming again," Monk thought, feeling the same sensation. However, the result was similar. He could not grasp it. He exhaled to calm down before looking around him, especially the scriptures. Monk squinted before muttering, "Buddhism focuses on developing the mind and wisdom? Wisdom? A bright light flashed in his eyes. Yes, the biggest difference between me and him is intelligence and wisdom. In that case, why can't I create a cultivation that would grant me the wisdom of a Tao overlord? Monk immediately acted on this wild whim. He summoned his pagoda artifact since its ability was to help in creating skills and techniques. Whether a Tao overlord's brain or soul is the source of their wisdom, I can create a method to modify my body. Monk frowned as he felt this was not enough. This shallow method cannot describe a Tao lord or overlord's wisdom. Wang Wei once said that his kind is not hindered by any cognitive limitations in their mind, allowing them to think outside of the box and see or make connections that even the most brilliant mind could not. So, this technique, at a higher level, must allow me to break my cognitive biases and limitations, Monk analyzed. The young Khan grunted softly. His idea was feasible on paper, but executing it was more complicated than he thought. With the barbarian's knowledge and Buddhism's wisdom Tao, he was confident in creating the first levels of this technique. However, he was unsure when it came to removing his cognitive limits. Cognitive limits involve the power of fate. It should be a way for the river of fate to control cultivators better, Monk analyzed with a frown. I can also deduce that the Supreme Outlaw Trial is the final hurdle for Tao overlords to completely free their mind from this shackle. In other words, the final level of this technique would be to pass the Supreme Outlaw Trial. Although this path is rough, it's something, Monk reassured himself. He would not give up on this idea, especially since he already had a name for this technique, the Great Wisdom Sutra. At the worst, he'll ask for Wang Wei's help and even offer him a handsome reward. If that doesn't work, he'll just wait for a weak Tao overlord and capture them as a test subject. Monk felt confident and immediately started. He still focused on cleansing his mind but also took time to create a better outline for this technique. So, even you can't find him? Wang Wei said. Something is blocking the truth around him, Star Sage Fan Sui answered truthfully. Can you tell if it was him? Wang Wei asked while pointing at the sun. It's hard to tell, Fan Sui replied. Previous attempts at getting information about him would result in absolutely no information or a terrible backlash. However, this attempt on Sage Pure Flame revealed too much without revealing much. This means it could have been him doing it on purpose, or the method he used is too weak because he used power from his vessel instead of his main body, Wang Wei summarized. It could also be another power, Fan Sui added. Although I am confident in my abilities, I'm not arrogant enough to say nothing can be hidden from me. Indeed, Wang Wei sighed. The two suddenly sensed something and looked at the vision between heaven and earth. Another moon has fallen, Fan Sui said with squinted eyes. It seems Monk has succeeded, Wang Wei commented. The end of this era is approaching, Fan Sui uttered. Will the next era be the era of Transcendents? Not if Time Eater has something to say about it. Is his plan enough to delay the upcoming era? Wang Wei asked with a frown. Delay? There is a high chance he would destroy it entirely. Wang Wei's expression became severe. He always knew Time Eater was a threat, but his deduction was the latter's plan, which involved him achieving higher realms. He believed Time Eater was planning a big move to give him the strength of half or pseudo-transcendent. With such power, he can survive until the next era and maybe even rise to power. However, Fan Sui told him the latter's threat was not just due to personal strength but something that could affect the entire Eternal Ascension world and the next era. I should have taken him more seriously after Mithriya's warning, Wang Wei grunted. However, even if he knew the truth, he could do nothing. He was already occupied with the current situation, so where did he have the time to deal with Time Eater? The latter has been hiding and planning for so long that even Mithriya couldn't tell his final goal. Alright, let's deal with one problem at a time, Wang Wei reassured himself. Supreme Unity was already a hard bone on his throat, and the last thing he should do was distract himself with Time Eater. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1397 The Inevitable Catastrophe Unedited Chapter. Although Wang Wei felt this should not be his burden to bear, this did not mean he would leave it alone. I need someone to monitor him and deal with the possible complications. He pondered briefly and came up with a plan. Sage, do you mind if I use your name to spread this news? Wang Wei asked. Wang Wei knew the overlords and other top lineages were more likely to believe and take this trouble seriously if it came from her instead of him. That's why I'm revealing it to you, Sage Fan Sui calmly replied. Thank you. No problem, but what will you do with Sage Pure Flame? She asked. I can only lure him out the old-fashioned way, Wang Wei replied. I wish your plan success, Sage Fan Sui nodded. One last thing, Wang Wei said. Did Yi Dafu return to the demon race? I can't sense his karmic line. The naughty monkey? He's in punishment. Wang Wei's lips twitched. What did he do? Should you know? Me? What does it have to do with me? Wang Wei asked. Aren't you the one who put these ideas into his mind? Idea? Wait, he didn't really try to remove his name from the Book of Life and Death, right? That's right, Fan Sui nodded. As soon as he became an Empyrean, he sneaked into the underworld, searching for the so-called Book of Life and Death, trying to remove his name. We had to pay many resources for the Yama Kings to release him. In fact, that little monkey is lucky. Otherwise, he might have been stuck in the underworld once the lock appeared. Wang Wei frowned after hearing these words. He never paid attention to the little trick he did to the Monkey King, but now he realizes that his small actions might have bigger implications. Is Yi Dafu somehow related to Sun Wukong? But how? Inheriting his spirit? Or something else? Names have power, and there is no better proof of this saying than the fact that the Maitreya of the Eternal Ascension world has the same name as the Maitreya Bodhisattva on Earth. Wang Wei has always wondered what the connection between these two was, and the best explanation he came up with was that she inherited the spirit of the Bodhisattva. Now, he started to believe the same for Yida. The question I need answers to is how can they influence the chaos universe given how isolated the prehistoric world is? Wang Wei analyzed. Did Grand Tao allow it, or is there a more profound truth I don't know about? It seems there were no bigger machinations behind your actions, Fan Sui stated after seeing his reaction. I'm afraid I might have been a pawn too, Wang Wei sighed. He did not believe it was a coincidence that he accidentally altered Yi Dafu's fate to be similar to Sun Wukong back on Earth. I understand, Fan Sui nodded her head. One of the fundamental truths of the cultivation world is that everybody is a pawn of someone. The higher the cultivation, the more agency a cultivator has, but that also means they are more valuable pawns. I must leave, Wang Wei announced. But I must say one last thing. If my guess about Yi Dafu is correct, no punishment will easily curb his wild personality, and he probably won't stop until he takes his name away from that book. Additionally, he might have a deep fate with Buddhism. Fan Sui pondered briefly before thanking him. This information will allow the demon race to prepare for Yi Dafu's destiny and how to better train or raise him. Without it, they could have lost him after putting in countless efforts and resources. Wang Wei disappeared, heading directly to the Origin Seal continent to see his ancestor. I need to see Ancestor Chiyuan. Now you don't even say hello, Yen Hai said with a frown, making Wang Wei sigh. Ancestor, time is of the essence, and I have much on my plate, so I apologize if I don't have the time or energy for our usual banters. Yen Hai looked at him before snorting coldly. She waved her hand to activate countless formations to isolate the area before summoning a token before activating it. A small black hole appeared in the room, and a few seconds later, a deep voice came from the other side. Third sister, did something else happen? The kid wants to see Big Brother. It seems urgent, Yen Hai responded. Is that so? Give me a few seconds. A few seconds later, the black hole trembled before an illusory body appeared, showing a handsome man. The man immediately smiled at Wang Wei before reaching to hug him. If it isn't the Wang clan's Qilin son, Chiyuan said. How have you been? Stress and losing hair, Wang Wei replied as he returned the hug. I can't do anything about your stress, but I know an excellent hair growth recipe. I guarantee Wu Hong will compliment you once the treatment is done. Wang Wei was speechless. But what I want is for you to reduce my stress. I'm dead. What can I do? Chiyuan replied casually. I'm kidding. Tell me what is on your mind? However, Wang Wei was suddenly on alert at this ancestor. He felt that this was the kind of state of mind Qiyuan was currently in. He was retiring as the clan and sect's brain, or wise leader, and handing all the burden and trouble to him. The future is worrying, Wang Wei thought. If Qiyuan decides to retire and leave all the work to him, his life will be too busy. No, I can't let this bastard enjoy life while I do everything. Wang Wei immediately made plans on how he will interact with his ancestors in the future. This is what I just learned from Sage Fan Sui, Wang Wei said before explaining the situation with Time Eater. So, you want us to keep a watch over him? Qiyuan asked. It would be better if you could eliminate him, and please don't give the excuse you're dead. Qiyuan glanced at him, wondering whether this kid had followed his plan. He did not dwell on this for long as Qiyuan started to observe the world. He raised his hand to summon some of the Dao opening sect's luck to boost his powers. Big brother, Yan Hai warned. Don't worry. Mithriya blessed us with her power, so we can now hide from him and even interfere a little, Qiyuan reassured as he continued his observation. He observed for a few minutes before speaking again. I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. What did you see? Wang Wei asked with a frown. Time Eater's catastrophe is inevitable. Are you serious? Heavenly Dao still wants to be the destiny center of the chaos universe, and this catastrophe is to make up for what it lacked, Qiyuan revealed. Wait, are you saying Heavenly Dao is the chess player behind Time Eater? Wang Wei asked incredulously. One of the players, Qiyuan corrected. By now, Time Eater should have gone rogue and become someone else's pawn. Wang Wei grunted softly, caressing his temple. What more can you reveal about this catastrophe? The plan, all along, was to use this catastrophe to reshuffle power in the world before the Transcendents era, Qiyuan continued. In other words, this catastrophe was for all the overlords and top lineages. You guys have ruled the world for an era, so it made sense it would want to remove some of you, Wang Wei commented. Yes, not all of us can become transcendent factions in the next era, Qiyuan nodded. Will our sect be alright? Yan Hai asked. Because of this kid, we have transcendent luck, Qiyuan commented. So, we'll be alright? No, without a true transcendent, luck is illusory, Wang Wei added. He's right. We need our own transcendence as soon as possible, Qiyuan nodded. And how are we supposed to do that? Yan Hai asked. The answer is Mithriya and this kid. Me. Yes. As long as you become a primal and she gives you her method, I'm willing to bet my life you can perfect it. You're putting too much faith in me, Wang Wei said with a wry smile. Maybe, Qiyuan said calmly. And in Mithriya, Wang Wei added. That's my main worry, Qiyuan revealed. She must be the final victor in their fight, and we can only hope she becomes our protector in this transitioning era. Are things really that bad? Yan Hai asked. Don't forget other chaos worlds also have transcendence, Qiyuan reminded. At this point, I can confidently say that the Eternal Ascension world will become the destiny center of the universe. However, our world might not belong to us if all these people invade and take residence here. In other words, we're about to become a delicious piece of meat, and Mithriya will be the only one who can protect us until we grow up, Yan Hai said. I couldn't say it in a better way, Qiyuan nodded. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1398 Two True Transcendents. What do you think the catastrophe will be? Wang Wei asked. His ancestor was wise and insightful, so he wanted to see if he could get some information or inspiration from him. I know it's related to the River of Time, but I can't deduce what form it will take. My theory is it will be similar to the ultimate taboo, Qiyuan stated. Past, present, and future, all condensed into one place, the Eternal Ascension world. We will have to face powerhouses from past ages like the Essence Age, Lost Age, and maybe as far as the Genesis Age. You can't be serious, Yan Hai stated. Such an event would fundamentally alter the primordial timeline. Grand Dao would never allow this. I agree, Wang Wei added. Not if the eternal ascension world is isolated into a time bubble, Chiyuan stated. By then, whatever happens in this world will have a limited effect on the primordial timeline, just like we isolate time marks to erase someone from the past. This still seems far-fetched, Yanhai stated. I also agree. Where did this come from? Wang Wei asked. He knew what terrifying creatures existed in these ages. According to his theory, Pangu might be the reason the prehistoric world is protected, and he most likely existed in one of these ages. You remember how I predicted that many of these ancient and powerful creatures did not completely die and were waiting for an opportunity to return to the world? Chiyuan asked. Are you saying this catastrophe is their chance? Yanhai asked. It's one thing if only a few of them wish to return, but if they want a grand event with everyone returning, they'll need a world that is the destiny center of the universe as an anchor. So, they were behind the scenes of the Second Origin War? Wang Wei caught on to what Chiyuan was insinuating. Yes, he nodded. Grand Dao never wanted these flawed methods to become common. So, why did it succeed in the end? These people paid a lot to ensure Grand Dao compromised. So, all the flawed or incomplete methods in the ultimate taboo might have been from these creatures, Wang Wei commented. That also implies that there were many half-step transcendent powerhouses and creatures in the old ages. Wang Wei was slightly shocked by this revelation. He knew some people successfully walked the transcendent paths before the ultimate taboo, but he did not think they were so common. However, as he looked at his ancestors' response, he realized they knew this truth already. It's not new information, Chiyuan said as he saw Wang Wei's look. We even know the Chaos Universe produced 2 true Transcendents. 2 of them? Wang Wei asked with shining eyes. Can you tell me more? No problem, Chiyuan replied. We know the first one appeared in the Genesis Age, and it was a strange and unknown creature. According to my analysis, it was relatively easy to become half-step transcendents, as you called it, and some creatures were probably even born with talents or skills on that level. Then, the first true transcendent appeared, and Grand Dao saw the benefit of cultivating such a cultivator. It began to encourage all lives to grow and reach that stage. Unfortunately, the creatures in that era were born too powerful and had no motivation to improve. Grand Dao eliminated them and started over. The primordial Chaos Age was the era of Chaos Demon Gods. Powerful creatures were born with great talent and bloodline, but they still had to work hard to improve themselves. Things did not come too easy for them. The Chaos Demon Gods did something terrible, leading to the Lost Age. Whatever happened in that age made Grand Dao realize that not all transcendent paths were good for the universe and started putting restrictions. No wonder everything is so strict now. Our predecessors screwed us, Wang Wei smiled wryly. He shook his head, deciding not to dwell too much on this. The next age should be the Essence Age, right? What happened at that time? That's when the second true Transcendence appeared, Chiyuan stated. We know he was human and a body refiner. However, his ascension did not benefit the Chaos Universe as much as the first. Apparently, his flesh absorbed too much energy from the Chaos Universe for his final sublimation, and the return did not please Grand Dao as much as the first time. So, that's why the Essence Age ended and more restrictions were placed on body refiners, Wang Wei nodded. That's right, Chiyuan nodded before continuing. The next age is the Soul Age, but, wait, not the Paragon Age? Let me finish. He has this bad habit of cutting people off, Yanhai complained, making Wang Wei smile in embarrassment. The Soul Age was too short, so most people do not know about it or consider it part of the early parts of the Paragon Age, Chiyuan stated. Wang Wei nodded before listening intently. A genius quickly rose in that age, reaching the level of becoming a true transcendent. However, they failed, and the backlash is why many Chaos worlds have lost their Tier 10 soul path. Wang Wei's eyes shone as these words solved a major puzzle he wished to know. Do we know what happened to the soul transcendent? Why did they fail? There are many theories, but the one I believe in is that Grand Dao eliminated them, Chiyuan said. You think their method would also bring danger to the Chaos Universe, so Grand Dao eliminated the danger before it became a problem? Yes, Qian nodded. Anyone who does not follow a proper and beneficial transcendent path will feel its wrath. So, conform and follow the rules or die, Wang Wei sneered. That's an apt way to put it, Qiyuan nodded. They looked at each other but did not continue this topic. Essence, soul, what about qi? Wang Wei asked. Based on this story, it's easy to deduce that Grand Tao was learning from their mistake, creating each era to better understand how to cultivate true transcendence. The goal has always been the Emperor or Paragon path that combined essence, qi, and spirit, Qiyuan replied. For some unknown reason, Grand Tao turned the pure qi age into the Paragon age. I did hear rumors that a pure qi cultivator attempted true transcendence in the middle stages of the Paragon age, but the sources of these rumors were not too reliable. I see, Wang Wei nodded. Back to our original topic. Do you really think these ancient powerhouses will return during the upcoming catastrophe? It still doesn't make sense to me, Yan Hai said. Logically speaking, shouldn't these people return at the height of the transcendent era or age instead of now? Grand Tao can then force us to fight each other to facilitate growth through war. That's exactly what I think will happen, Qiyuan said. But, you seem to think when I say they will return, they will be in their peak form and immediately take over, Qiyuan said. He understood how his sister's mind thought, so he knew what mistakes she made. Do you think they can survive perfectly intact after Grand Tao eliminated them? No, they are just remnants, even echoes of their former self. The catastrophe conflict will be their attempt to take over this world and use the resources to return to their peak. The animosity between us and them will be established in the catastrophe before completely breaking out during the transcendent age when we finally have the power to confront them. I see, Yan Hai nodded. Of course, that was the original script, Qiyuan chuckled. The two looked at him, not hiding their bafflement. Because now there is a wild card. Me? Wang Wei asked. What does it have to do with me? The All-Haven fate calamity is approaching. The strings of fate envelop primordial chaos, and the Mad Emperor, in his path to control his fate, will do anything to reach detachment. That's the all-seeing temple's prophecy on the next major catastrophe of the chaos universe, Yan Hai said. Are you saying it's about him? Think about it carefully, Qiyuan said with a smile. His Tao is fate. His pursuit is to be free and unfettered, and we know how capable he is. How far do you think this kill will go to achieve his goal? Do you think he will play by Grand Tao's rules? Now that you mention it, Yan Hai said, looking Wang Wei up and down. She then turned to her big brother. So, what's our plan while this kid makes all this trouble? As the saying goes, once someone becomes enlightened, even chickens and dogs will benefit, Qiyuan replied. We only need to support him, and we will also transcend. Or perish with me, Wang Wei added. It's worth the risk, Qiyuan replied calmly. Is it? The ultimate taboo showed me my limits, Qiyuan said. I can probably come close to transcendence but never truly achieve it. And in the process, I may lose everything I hold dear. Qiyuan sighed. However, it's different when I look at you. In you, I not only see an opportunity for true transcendence for myself but also a future in which many people and even the sect also transcend this universe. Ancestor, aren't you putting too much faith in me? Wang Wei smiled wryly. Maybe I am, Qiyuan smiled. But I think you can take it. What do you think, third sister? Since you trust him and I trust your judgment, then I believe he can do it, Yan Hai replied calmly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1399 On the Precipitous. Wang Wei was in deep thought. Recent events with Mithria taught him that his family and sect may not be reliable in his future transcendent path, and he may have to rely on his wife, Wu Hong. However, Qiyuan's words made him realize he may have learned the wrong lesson in that experiment. The sect's support may not be good for me, Wang Wei thought. The sect's effect has always accompanied him throughout his cultivation journey, either providing him with resources and protection or serving as a safety net in case he failed. During his transcendent path, the role might be reversed, but if he plays his cards correctly, it may still make his life easier. I'm glad to have your thorough support, Wang Wei nodded. Can you tell me more about the all-seeing temple's prophecy? How many people know? And how far has it spread? He was not surprised by this prophecy since Wang Wei had long deduced his transcendent path would terrorize the entire chaos universe, hence the confrontation between himself and Grand Dao. Are you worried that others would realize the prophecy is about you? Qiyuan asked. Since you can figure it out, others might also be able to. Or, at the very least, have their suspicions, Wang Wei said. No need to worry too much about that, Qiyuan said. Did you do something? Yanhai asked. After knowing about the prophecy, I knew I needed to divert the trouble from us. So, when these two first left the world to fight in primordial chaos, I took the risk to contact our people in other chaos worlds, Qiyuan explained. By now, a few people should also meet this description. Everyone knows the Eternal Ascension world will play a significant role in the All-Haven Fate calamity. Still, it doesn't necessarily have to be the one who created the Mad Emperor. However, when the time comes, these fakes must come to the Eternal Ascension world to play their role better. That's a great approach, Wang Wei said while also feeling his ancestors' care and meticulous mind. But it would be better if we could get a trusted individual to spread another prophecy that fits and contradicts this one. I had the same thought, but I realized we would need someone on Mithraya's level to fool these foreign transcendents, Qiyuan said. True, Wang Wei sighed. Regardless, thank you, ancestors. Wang Wei did not know how effective Qiyuan's method would be, but it was enough that it bought him more time to grow and develop. Like I said, you are our future. Qiyuan patted him on the shoulder, and Wang Wei nodded. So, what should we do with Time Eater? Do we ignore him since we know it's inevitable? No, he's still a dangerous individual, Qiyuan stated. If we allow him to develop until the next era, he could become a major problem. So, when necessary, we must kill or weaken him as much as possible. Good, but as I said when this conversation started, I'm too busy dealing with that Taoist traitor and the lock. So someone needs to monitor and deal with him, Wang Wei added. I'll keep an eye out on him, Qiyuan nodded before looking in the distance. Now that we are invisible under his eyes, it's time for us to start acting. Great. The three chatted for a few more seconds before dispersing. Wang Wei returned to his hiding dimension. As he sat on a calming mat, he reviewed every word his ancestors said. He would not just accept their words and check before coming to his own conclusion. I'm afraid Qiyuan's theory might be correct, Wang Wei summarized. I always wondered where Lin Fan's destiny with the Chaos Demon Gods originated, and now I have an answer. Then there is Sun Junyao. Everybody else and I have always thought her perfection originated from Grand Dao, but she might also be the pawn of some creature from the Genesis Age. Wang Wei was still more inclined to believe it was from Grand Dao, but he could not rule out that possibility. Everyone is a pawn of someone else. Wang Wei sighed. This world truly sucks. He shook his head before he suddenly stopped. Wait, I'm Fate and Grand Dao's pawn. My three ancestors seem to be that venerable Trinity's pawn, but what about my future wife? Whose pawn is she? I don't believe such a talented person never caught the eyes of someone else. Besides the time Heavenly Dao manipulated her to create the Hong protection system, it did not appear anyone was manipulating her from the shadows. I don't believe not a single person was interested, so either she has already escaped such a fate, or the person is hiding deep and hasn't shown up yet. This wife of mine seems to have many secrets she hasn't revealed yet. Wang Wei shook his head and decided to have this conversation with her in the future. Now that he was done dealing with all these theories and larger-than-life enemies, it was time for him to return down to earth and deal with the problem in front of him. He waved his hand to summon Red Mask. Lord. She saluted respectfully despite communicating through an image array. Spread a rumor that I will establish a sage council in 100 years to gather all the world's sages to create a solution for the plague curse. Lord, do you want to lure Sage Pure Flame into action? Yes, but I also want to establish the council. I know for a fact that these top lineages must have hidden a few first and maybe even second-level sages. If they could accept my invitation, it may indeed solve the current problem. I understand, Red Mask nodded. Anything else? That's it for now. Wang Wei ended the conversation, remaining alone with his thoughts. If I were in Supreme Unity's shoes, what would I do next? His mind went into deduction mode. Assuming he's the one manipulating Sage Pure Flame and he co-opted my plague idea, the next thing I would do is to make the blood of mortals a cure for the plague. No, not just a cure, but a temporary one. With this move, the Immortals will now have a reason to target mortals. More importantly, they are desperate. If mortal blood is the only way to save their lives, these immortal sovereigns and Dao rulers will become ruthless to save their life. And if the plague mutates to affect mortals, then the mortals will have no hope. I can't let him slowly plan in the shadows. I need to force him to activate his plans before he's fully prepared. Wang Wei did not waste time and immediately accessed the Void Illusion realm. He modified the core program before putting his plan into action. Then, Wang Wei used it to send a message as wide as possible. With the password, Immortal Dream, any cultivator can receive a technique from the Void Illusion realm called Longevity Rune Body, which can increase everyone's lifespan between 12,600 years to 26 million years. Additionally, this technique has other benefits similar to the Source Rune Physique for professionals and a minor increase in talent for other cultivators. Wang Wei knew cultivators' greatest motivation has always been benefit. But in the post-lock era, the benefits have changed from an increase in strength to an increase in lifespan. Next is Shu Ren. Wang Wei closed his eyes, focusing on Shu Shu. The woman was the pinnacle of his understanding of perfection and existence. He was extra careful when creating her, and to ensure the plan's success, he never once checked on her after the creation. However, now that he sensed someone else had connected their existence to her, it was time to check on her. The first thing he did was check her memories. Well, Wang Wei was slightly traumatized by some of them, but all was worth it for the sake of this plan. That small dick Shu Ren does love her, but he was also cautious in not revealing much of his secrets to her, Wang Wei commented. However, after experiencing life and death, they should become closer, and I may find something to use on him. The Earth Emperor was the last straw of the Seven Moon era since Seven Cauldrons' existence should have been overridden by Supreme Unity's rough use of her as a vessel. As long as Shu Ren dies, the shackles of the world's luck and destiny will finally return to its former owners. As for Seven Cauldron, she probably won't leave long even if Supreme Unity is not dealt with. Whoever is planning to deal with Shu Ren, what is taking so long? Wang Wei complained before closing his eyes, waiting for the result of his chess moves. More than 10 years passed, and besides communicating with Sage Lin Qin and Emperor Kong about the council, Wang Wei remained in place, waiting for the result. Then, Red Mask contacted him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1400 Civilization War, Democracy Unedited Chapter. Your facial expression tells me you're bringing bad news, Wang Wei calmly stated. Not all bad news, Red Mask replied, slightly embarrassed. There is a silver of good news. Start with the bad, Wang Wei sighed. The other lineages have sent news that there are signs of the plague in other territories. Wang Wei sighed deeper. Did someone break through our blockade? All the lineages worked together to ensure the plague only remained in Five Feathers and Undead Phoenix's territory. So far, there are no signs of that. So, someone else with the source of the plague spread it elsewhere, Wang Wei commented before sneering. He looked at the sky, the sun specifically. So, this is your doing after all. This mad Taoist has reached the point where he will do anything to kill all life in this world and take complete control over true heavenly Tao. What is the good news you mentioned? Sage Pure Flame has shown up, Red Mask reported. Did you capture him? Wang Wei quickly asked. No, since he seems extra careful, but he has shown up twice now in the past 3 weeks, and each time seems close to a group of cursed individuals, Red Mask reported. Keep a close tab on his whereabouts and capture him no matter the price we must pay, understand? Yes, Lord. Wang Wei nodded. Has there been any signs that mortal blood is the cure for the plague? Nothing as of yet. Maybe we still have some time, Wang Wei muttered. They discussed a few matters before he dismissed Red Mask. Wang Wei's next destination was to check on the mortal civilization. In the past 10 years, he did two things: understanding Mithraya's analysis of the lock and casting a luck spell to accelerate the development of the mortal civilization. Wang Wei quietly arrived at Du Tsong's base, which was testing a new generation of domain armor. He watched as the armor released 5 floating scales surrounding it to form a circle with a radius of 40 meters. Then, the scales started resonating with each other before activating their power of law. It's indeed a domain, Wang Wei thought. However, this thing was extremely frail, and there was no way it could beat the weakest saint without using countless armor. However, Wang Wei still nodded in satisfaction. The first version of this technology required the mortals to build 5 enormous law pillars to establish the domain. But now, in just a short few years, they have already miniaturized the technology. They still can eliminate Tier 8 cultivators whose power systems do not involve the law, Wang Wei thought. Now that he was satisfied with this group's progress, Wang Wei thought of checking on the others. However, he sensed his communication talisman vibrating, so he checked it. His brow immediately furrowed after seeing the content. So, it finally started, huh? Wang Wei did not waste time sending the information to his allies. A few seconds later, he was at a conference with many representatives from the Overlord factions and other top lineages. They discussed the next battle plan before dispersing this meeting. Wang Wei then summoned all the leaders of the mortal civilization through the Void Illusion realm. Time is precious, so let's get to it, Wang Wei said as soon as he showed up with Jia Ping and the other guardians. He showed them a recording one of his creations sent him. All these leaders then watched in horror as this cultivator with purple pus on their bodies and red eyes massacred a dynasty of more than 50 million people and drank their blood. Then, the madness in his eyes faded, and even a few small pus sacs faded away. Whoever recorded this image took the time to ensure it was as detailed as possible. "Heaven has truly forsaken us," said one of the mortal leaders. First, everyone wanted their blood for longevity, and now, it appeared to be the cure for the terrible curse/disease spreading in the outside world. "This is not the work of heaven, but the result of man's greed," someone else countered. This leader knew more and understood the core of their people's suffering. "Guardian, what should we do now?" Du Tsong asked. He felt the atmosphere might suddenly shift to that of depression and nihilism, so he decided to ask a question with a more hopeful tone. "The next course of action is for you to decide," Wang Wei said. He raised his hand to condense a map with countless dots, many of whom were disappearing. Over the years, with the help of his soul network ability and access to the Void Illusion realm, he created an excellent map of large and middle areas occupied by mortals. The map was not perfect since he categorized any area with a population of less than 500 million as small, but he will do it for now. You have 2 choices: continue developing until your civilization is fully prepared for this war, or reveal yourself now to rescue as many of your fellow compatriots as possible. Wang Wei paused, leaving his words to simmer. "I won't decide for you in this matter. From now on, all major decisions involving the fate of your civilization will be decided by you." "We must save our people," Sun Longwei immediately yelled. He remembered what the Guardian said. He levied for his people. As such, he would not accept waiting as their fellow compatriot are slaughtered and everyone else gets to live a peaceful and sheltered life. "Don't get excited too quickly," said another leader. "If we can become a Tier 9 civilization before leaving our base, think of how many people we'll be able to save." "Yes, that's right. This is a matter that can affect our entire civilization, so taking a careful approach is best." "If you fear for your life, say so," Du Tsong countered. "You people saw how powerful the law armors were, and by our calculations, cultivators are even more powerful. Can you imagine how many of our people they will kill if we don't help? By the time we reach a Tier 9 civilization, how many will be left alive? We must fight. War is the best way to motivate technological innovation," said a leader with a more militaristic style. "That's right. All our achievements and data on fighting cultivators have been curated and well controlled. We have no idea whether these puppets, armors, poisons, etc., will even work in a war with ever-changing scenarios. But what if our bases are discovered? All our people will die, and all our progress will be destroyed. That's right. The people in the bases have been enlightened, so we should prioritize their safety before considering helping the outsiders. Do you hear the nonsense coming out of your mouth? A few hundred years of safety is all it took for you to develop a sense of superiority. Already forgotten you were also once ignorant? That's not what I mean. Don't twist my words. Then what did you mean? I was merely concerned with preserving our rune technology and all other advancements we've made so far, and the bases are the key to that preservation. The people are the key, argued someone else. We can preserve the knowledge in the void illusion realm. That way, even if the base falls, someone else can rebuild it. We started ignorantly and built such wonders. Since we can do it, they can too. No, they can do it better since they will be standing on the shoulders of giants. The argument continued while intensifying with each passing second. Wang Wei calmly watched them argue for more than 5 hours without stating his opinion. Sir, these people are not ready to be independent. Jia Ping sent him a message. Maybe so, but there is not enough time to slowly let go of the wheel, Wang Wei replied. He finally used his power to silence everyone. Many of the leaders, like Du Song, hoped Wang Wei would make a decision and remove this burden from their shoulders. We will put it to a vote, and the majority wins, Wang Wei said. Under his control, 3 choices appeared before these leaders: intervene, don't intervene, and abstain from voting. You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Wang Wei announced the result. 1. 3 million votes for no interference, 200,000 for abstention, and 1. 5 million for interfering. The choice has been made. Everyone leaves to prepare for this war of civilization. The leaders looked at each other before nodding and leaving to execute this order. Is something on your mind? Wang Wei asked. Sir, is it really necessary to relinquish power to them? They don't seem ready for the task, Jia Ping asked. Our existence will become a shackle to them, Wang Wei explained. If we want their civilization to develop truly, this is a necessary step. But even so, it seems you've grown attached to them. I can't deny that. Well, don't be too attached, Wang Wei warned. In the current political climate, attachment is a weakness, and the last thing we need is someone to use it against you. I understand. If you want to one day rebuild your dynasty, I have no issue, Wang Wei continued. You can even integrate the mortal civilization into your rule. But like I said, don't get too attached to these mortals specifically. As you wish, Jia Ping replied with more light in his eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1401 Civilization War. True Battle. Du Song returned home, feeling restless. He always knew this day would come, but he suddenly felt overwhelmed when it did. Air entered and exited his body as this kind of controlled breathing soothed his rampaging thought. Summon the War Council, Du Song ordered, and in less than 10 minutes, all the best military minds of his base gathered in one room. Du Song explained the situation to them, and everybody prepared for war. The council mobilized all their troops while waiting for Wang Wei's map. A few days later, they saw an area of the map rapidly disappearing, and everyone's breathing rapidly increased. Report the threat level, Du Song asked. Energy level indicates a cultivator between tier 4 and 5. Du Song frowned, wondering whether it was a coincidence that their first opponent was so weak. However, he decided that it did not matter. This is the path their civilization must take. What do you think we should do? He asked his generals. I suggest we deploy 1-5B squad. A squad? Shouldn't 1-5B armor be enough? This is war, and we cannot take the risk. That makes sense. Soon, everybody agreed on a safe approach, and Du Song made the final decision. Under his order, one of the best 5B squad, the White Wolf Squad, was deployed. This civilization has mastered space travel, and unlike the ones from the lower dimension, Wang Wei did not have to create a separate subspace from them. Their space-traveling technology involved combining light and space runes to navigate through the complex spatial structure of the upper dimension. "Captain, are you excited?" asked a young man wearing blue armor with the head of a white wolf drawn on his back. He looked excitedly at a middle-aged man with white hair, a scar over his right eye, and the eyes of a ferocious animal. "Lu Zhen, this is war. Take it seriously," said a woman with similar armor. She and Lu Zhen were both Tier 4 pilots of the White Wolf Squad, making them the 4 vice-captains of the squad. "Blue Flower, you're too serious," Lu Zhen said. "How many times have we trained in the Void Illusion realm? This battle will be swift, and once we're done, our squad can be raised to 6B and even the legendary 7A squad." All three had a brief light of desire flashing in their eyes. No armor pilots did not desire to become a 7A squad. Sadly, there were few of these armors, and the requirements were more than stringent. "Blue Flower is correct. This is war, so don't play around," White Wolf said seriously, albeit his tone did not hide his confidence. "On your command, Captain." The other members soon arrived, which included 2 other 4B vice-captains pilots and 103 3C pilots for a total of 108. All squads usually have between 72 to 360 members, and the composition could be real pilots with puppets. White Wolf was not fond of puppets, so he always used real pilots. Additionally, his reputation was enough to build a crew with only 3C pilots. "Let's go," White Wolf ordered after everyone had suited up before leading them to a towering gate. Everyone gazed at this door with wonder and longing. Only hunting squads had the right to leave the base to capture cultivators for training or research purposes. However, most of the time, a guardian would do the job, so even the hunting squad did not have much opportunity to leave, let alone them. White Wolf took a deep breath before walking through the gate. He felt he had turned into a white light and was traveling at an unreasonable speed. The squad felt an eternity had passed traveling in that void while simultaneously feeling it was an instant. White Wolf opened his mouth to check on his team when a terrible smell assaulted his senses. This terrible smell, a mixture of blood, urine, fecal matter, vomit, and more importantly, intense fear, sent a great shock to his system. One of the requirements for being a pilot was a great vision, but White Wolf regretted having such a good vision. He saw limbs scattered everywhere, followed by bodies of men, women, and children, the despair before their death still on their faces. White Wolf's face paled as he saw a pregnant woman lying on the ground with a big hole in her head. His reaction was not for her death but because his armor detected the womb in her stomach still had signs of life. Countless sounds of retching echoed behind White Wolf. Usually, he would reprimand his men, but he did not have the strength. A part of their training was called the cruelty of war, and they saw even worse sights like this in the Void Illusion realm. However, everyone could compartmentalize these experiences as an illusion and not real. But the one before them was real. All these people are real people, and they have genuinely died horribly. "Captain, what should we do?" Blue Flower asked, her face pale under her mask. "Should we start rescuing operations? Our training said cultivators are destructive, so we must eliminate them before focusing on rescuing survivors. Otherwise, even more lives will be lost," said Vice Captain Li Shun. "But," Blue Flower said, looking at the child missing his right leg and struggling to survive. "Lu Shin is right," White Wolf said, finally regaining his bearing. His wolf-shaped mask looked in the distance while his body released a terrifying killing intent. "Deploy!" The squad flew toward the high-energy response the armor detected. "A child?" asked Lu Zhen. The enemy was a child with long white hair, black clothes, and red eyes like an animal. A close look revealed purple pus sacs on its arms and neck. "Not a child. It should be a cultivation technique that made him look like this," Vice Captain Grindax replied. "I was hoping the enemy was from the demon race," Lu Zhen commented. "Don't have any unnecessary dreams. Although we are both humans, cultivators do not see us as the same species," Grindax sneered, his words impacting the team more than he understood. They were all smart people and understood the truth. The great Guardian Wang Wei and Guardian Jia Ping treated their kind respectfully, but any discerning person could tell how they did not want to associate too closely with them. These pilots understood. Although now mortals can live up to 10,000 years, allowing them to have long friendships with cultivators. However, 10,000 years was not even a nap for these immortal powerhouses. And that's not to mention that if they did not control their emotions properly and accidentally released their aura, they could annihilate every life in their bases. With such a vast difference, it's understandable why they did not want to associate with regular humans. Of course, understanding is just that, understanding. Just because these mortals understood the reason did not mean they could accept it emotionally. Ultimately, unless Heavenly Tao accepts mortal civilization as a viable cultivation path that can become immortal and higher, mortals will always feel inferior to cultivators. Enough talking, White Wolf ordered. Get in formation. All 3 sea pilots surrounded this devil child, and their armor linked together. They raised their hands to fire projectiles and spells at their opponents. The 4 vice captains teamed up, leaving White Wolf as the primary vanguard. The captain launched at this devil child, trying to claw him into 2. All 3 sea pilots surrounded this devil child, and their armor linked together. They raised their hands to fire projectiles and spells at their opponents. The 4 vice captains teamed up, leaving White Wolf as the primary vanguard. The captain launched at this devil child, trying to claw him into 2. The child, whose mind was lost due to the plague and acting out of instinct, finally noticed these people when his life was in danger. Small earth spears manifested behind before rushing toward White Wolf with extreme speed. The vice captains suddenly appeared in front and worked together to block these spears. White Wolf's momentum did not decrease due to his teammates' utility help, so he continued forward. The child was about to attack a second time, but the 3 sea pilots started their barrages of energy attacks, forcing him to create energy shields to protect himself. White Wolf finally arrived and released a barrage of attacks. His claws were made of the best materials capable of shredding most divine body cultivators' shields. Additionally, he asked for his claws to be boosted by metal runes, so adding his White Wolf martial arts, the captain was confident in tearing that damn cultivator apart. However, the shield calmly created earth shields around him, blocking all of White Wolf's attacks. The enemy is suspected of being an Earth Tao cultivator, Grindax said in their interlink communication system. Firing squad, changed to fire-based attacks. More than 20 members of the 3 sea squads had fire rune base armor, and then they became the primary link of the formation. Using their runes as resonance, everyone else could now attack with fire spells. The squad opened their palms, preparing to release fireballs. White Wolf cooperated with the team. He did not allow his anger to dictate his actions. He moved out of the way to make more space for the firing squad. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1402 Civilization War, Cultivators Horror, unedited chapter, and I made a mistake in the previous chapter. The Devil Child cultivated Metal Tao since fire balances out metal in the 5-element chart. I've already fixed it. The Devi Child's shield blocked this barrage of attacks, but it still showed signs of melting. The vice captains took this opportunity to rush in for an attack. Each had their specialty, but their attack now was to ensure maximum damage. Boom! The Devil Child's defense could not hold on and flew to the ground, but White Wolf was already waiting for him with his claw. The child's body instinctively moved, so White Wolf attack only scratched his back instead of cleaving him in two. White Wolf immediately disappeared from his spot, and the next thing that came was another barrage of fire attacks. The Devil Child surrounded itself with a double-layer shield, one of pure energy on top, followed by a metal shield in the second layer. Such quick thinking displayed this cultivator's extreme battle experience even after losing his mind. However, the mortals were not bad too. The Void Illusion realm allowed them to experience many kinds of opponents. The bombardment destroyed the shield's layer, leaving the second layer with some melting spots. However, before the child could breathe, Vice Captain Lucian appeared before him with a flame shield and cut his defense like a knife passing through butter. Blue Flower followed with a trident composed of lightning and thunder, and she threw it with enormous force. The Devil Child screamed in agony as the lightning ravaged his body, but this was far from enough. Vice Captain Li Shun produced tree rots that directly embedded themselves into the Devil Child's arms and legs, not only injuring him but rendering him immobile. Now, Li Shun yelled, and Grindax was already prepared to use his specialty, Soul Attack. Grindax was one of the few enlightened humans who chose a military/martial path instead of research. As such, his armor was designed with spiritual runes, allowing him to use techniques like mind or soul attacks. The Devil Child felt danger and immediately tried to teleport from his predicament. However, all squads knew that the minimum level for any cultivation system to access space technique was Tier 4, so they considered this. The 3C Pilots formation was not just to link their minds and energy reserves but also a space blockade in the area they had surrounded. The Devil Child screamed in agony as the world spun around him. This attack looked devastating, but Vice Captain Grindax was not feeling too well. Ultimate, a mortal's soul cannot compare to a Tier 5 cultivator. The armor boosted his spiritual power and protected him from the backlash, but its power was also limited. The Devil Child's aura drastically dropped, and White Wolf finally acted. He appeared before the culprit, piercing the latter's chest with his mighty claw. He destroyed all the devil's internal organs before ripping his heart out. "Disgusting thing," White Wolf sneered. "Even your heart is black." He looked at the disgusting thing in his hand and threw it away. The team watched as the Devil Child slowly lost gravity and crashed into the ruin of this mortal dynasty. "I told you this would be easy," Lu Zhen said as his mask automatically disappeared. "We only won because of our teamwork," Blue Flower replied. "But we still won." "Now is not the time to celebrate," Grindax added. "This is just one cultivator among countless. Our work has just started." "Grindax is right," White Wolf nodded. "Enough chit-chat and immediately start the rescue mission." "Aye, Captain," Lu Zhen smiled. "Now, they can finally focus on rescuing as many people as possible." Although this battle was intense and showed the result of their years of training, what is truly important is to save their compatriot. "I must thank you," suddenly said an eerie voice that sounded like the combination of 3 or more people. The pilots watched in horror as the Devil Child got up and looked at them calmly. "If not for you almost killing me, I would have never awakened my consciousness," the Devil Child said, buying himself enough time to use his metal Dao to build metal hearts and other organs. The Devil Child slowly floated in the air, standing before the team. "A group of mortals? Is the source of your strength those armors? Interesting," he smirked before his expression suddenly changed to cruelty and horror. "However, you, ants, actually dare to steal the power of Cultivator? We did not steal anything. This is the power we build with our own 2 hands," Lu Zhen snapped back. "Don't argue with him," White Wolf ordered. "Prepare for battle." "So, you're their leader?" The Devil Child looked at him. "You don't look too impressive." "Since we killed you once, we can do it again," White Wolf said calmly. "The greatest sin ants can make is not realizing they are ants," the Devil Child said with a sneer. His injury had reached the point where he could fight at his peak again, meaning he had no more words for these ants. Supreme Sword Strike. The Devil Child waved his hand to manifest an enormous black sword above the team's head that rang alarm bells in everyone's mind. "Use the 5-point array," White Wolf swiftly ordered. The team immediately got into position behind him to resonate all their energy, mind, soul, and runes. They generated a 5-color shield above them, which appeared to have excellent defensive capabilities. However, the Devil Child only sneered. His gaze shifted to the pilots surrounding him. A white light enveloped the sky in the shape of a perfect circle, followed by countless explosions. It was as if this was a festival, and these explosions were the fireworks. However, those were not fireworks. The Devil Child eliminated all these pilots with 1 sword attack, and after barely blocking that sword, the team realized what had happened. "Now it's your turn, ants." The Devil Child rushed toward the team. Vice Captain Li Shun acted the fastest by using his Wood Rune. Numeracy roots tried to intercept the Devil Child. Would Dao with the specialty of controlling the opponent? He may also be the team's healer, the Devil Child analyzed as he cut down the roots. After this analysis, the Devil Child suddenly changed his target from the strongest, White Wolf, to Vice Captain Blue Flower. The female pilot used the time Li Shun bought her to summon a potent lightning bolt and attack. Unfortunately for her, the Devil Child had some understanding of the relationship between the elements. He calmly condensed a sword and used it to absorb her lightning bolt. Then, he reversed the lightning and boosted it before returning the attack to Blue Flower. He perfectly countered her attack. The powerful electrical currents temporarily short-circuited Blue Flower's armor, rendering her helpless. The team's face became horrified as they realized she was wide open, and they immediately tried their best to support and protect her. Swish! The Devil Cultivator disappeared. He teleported directly behind Li Shen and cut off his head with one swift motion. Everyone was still focused on Blue Flower and did not react to what just happened. However, that would not stop the Devil Child. His next target was Grindax. After the last spiritual attack, this person was moving sluggishly, and the Devil Child recognized such behavior as the backlash from spirit injuries. Grindax did his best by mobilizing all the energy in his suit for one desperate block. Sadly for him, the Devil Child's sword was not a physical attack. The sword directly invaded his sea of consciousness and obliterated his soul. "No!" Lu Xun screamed. His armor combusted as he removed all the limits and burned all the energy and runes, turning him into a humanoid elemental flame spirit. He flew toward the Devil Child with one intention: kill him at all cost. However, the latter calmly responded to his action by encasing him into a metal ball and adding dozens of layers to ensure he could not burn through it. "What an idiot," the Devil Child commented. The only fate left for Lu Xun was to burn himself inside that ball. "Run away." "What?" "Blue Flower, this is a direct order. Live and run away," White Wolf said. "I'll buy you enough time, so run away." The base cannot use spatial technology to teleport them back until their tasks have been accomplished or they are in an isolated area without any enemies in sight. White Wolf knew that only by finding a safe space could Blue Flower have a chance at surviving. "Want to run away?" The Devil Child sneered. He could not hear these two's link communication, but their aura revealed much of their intents even if they wore armor. He opened his mouth to spit a mouthful of blood that rapidly condensed into another Devil Child. "He knows," White Wolf said with an ugly expression. He gritted his teeth before rushing to his opponent. He still wanted to fight both these creatures to buy his teammate a chance at surviving. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1403 Civilization War. Cruel Truth. White Wolf rushed forward, trying to hold both devils for as long as possible. However, before reaching his destination, the clone disappeared. White Wolf wanted to turn around to protect Blue Flower, but it was too late. The devil appeared before him and stroked him repeatedly with potent sword attacks. "Your claws are quite sharp, they should make for some decent material," the Devil Child uttered. "I'll kill you, bastard," White Wolf scoffed as a sense of urgency drowned his senses. He increased his attack tempo, trying to eliminate this bastard as soon as possible to protect his ally. "Your mind and will are weak," the Devil Child taunted. "And that's just the surface of all the flaws you have. The cultivation world has existed for longer than your tiny mind could fathom. Did you really think you could rival us after creating this little armor?" "Shut up." Boom. White Wolf's body paused as his armor's sensor detected that Blue Flower's life signs were completely gone. His mind reverted to their first meeting. "Captain, what if they don't like me?" "They don't need to like you." "You know what I mean," Blue Flower added. "I've heard about many female pilots that are mistreated. That's why we formed the association to ensure we are on the same squad." "Then you should trust the association." "You recruited me through them?" "That's right," White Wolf nodded. "They've inspected and investigated our team before accepting my application." "I see, but Captain, why did you want a woman in your squad?" "I wanted a lightning user, but as you know, those are rare. So, I applied everywhere hoping to get someone." "I see. We're here." Believe me, you'll love this team, Wolf said, noting that she was not too confident. How about this? We'll have a mock battle as soon as we arrive. This way, we can better understand each other as a team, and the others can see how capable you are. But that's not a good approach for a first meeting. Maybe, but it's the most direct way. All right. Team, come meet our new number. Captain, where did you find this terrifying pilot? Lu Zhen asked. His armor was torn apart by lightning in the battle simulation. So, what do you guys think? Wolf asked. She's awesome, Lu Zhen immediately said. She will be a great addition to the team, Li Shen nodded. Grindax? White Wolf asked. I know you're not one to mince your words, so tell me honestly what you think. Her control over her armor is superb, and the utilization of her Thunder Rune is one of the best I've seen, Grindax replied calmly. But she's too slow for a Thunder user, Grindax added. White Wolf did not comment. Blue Flower, what do you think of this comment? The Academy's instructor had the same evaluation, Blue Flower admitted. She said I could become a 6B pilot if I fix this problem. Grindax here has a knack for training pilots. With him here, your chances at improving and becoming 6B will be much higher. I will be in your care, Blue Flower bowed. We are all teammates, so let's take care of each other, Grindax nodded. Good. Now that everything is resolved, let's celebrate the arrival of our new member. Blue Flower had the most potential of our team, White Flower thought. Maybe if we trained her harder, she could have become a 6B pilot without participating in this accursed mission. This thought haunted the White Wolf. However, he extricated himself after realizing Blue Flower would eventually have to participate in the war. Ultimately, it is the fault of these cultivators for treating us as resources and materials, White Wolf thought with gritted teeth. Calm down, this is not the time for this. I need to make this bastard pay, even if I must die in the process. Swish. White Wolf saw two white lights flash on both sides of his body. He was puzzled by what was happening until his sensor reported the loss of his 4 limbs. White Wolf was still puzzled because he could not feel the pain since the armor immediately injected a medicinal solution into his body to remove all his pain. Like I said, your mind and will are weak, the Devil Child said. Your body instinctively paused after a great shock to your psyche. Did you think I couldn't exploit such a major flaw? White Wolf looked at this man in his eyes, despairing and already overwhelming his mind. However, he did not let it consume him. Instead, he used his hatred to retain the last bit of his sanity and consciousness. Why didn't you kill me? What can I say? I like to play with my food, the Devil Child smiled cruelly. White Wolf stared at him. You want to search my soul and get information about our origin. Sadly for you, this is a futile effort. The Devil Child's face changed, and he immediately invaded this mortal's sea of consciousness to search for his soul. As expected, White Wolf's soul was already destroyed. The truth of the matter is this Devil Child was playing with fire, trying to get information from White Wolf's mind. The location and situation of these mortal bases were of the utmost priority, so the protection of their information was left to Wang Wei. What a waste, the Devil Child cursed before looking in the distance. He felt that someone had been watching him for a while and had been on guard. However, the sensation disappeared after this mortal's soul scattered. Whatever, he announced. His goal has been achieved since he confirmed that mortal blood could curb the spread of the curse. Additionally, he also got his hands on some decent material. So, the Devil Child collected the wreckage of all the pilots before killing the surviving mortals and taking their blood. Finally, he disappeared on the horizon. War Council, Du Tsong looked at the black screen, his eyes almost empty. The room was so quiet that even the sound of heavy breathing sounded like a shout. To say this battle was a wake-up call was an understatement. An ordinary cultivator. Everyone looked at the strategist who spoke. That Devil Child was an ordinary cultivator, not a genius, a heaven chosen, or these monsters with immortal foundation. He was just an ordinary cultivator with good battle experience. His words strengthened the somber atmosphere in the room. A few people wanted to rebut, but the truth had just slapped them in the face. What should we do? Someone else asked, but no one had an answer. Can we still track that bastard's location? Du Song suddenly asked. Oh yes, someone replied. He just killed our people. We can track the spiritual residual from his body. Good. Send 5B squads to eliminate him. Leader, is this wise? Just do it, Du Song ordered. If you want to kill him, at least send a 6B squad. No, we need to know how our troops fared against ordinary cultivators on the same level, Du Song replied, his expression and demeanor extremely calm but also cold. Everyone looked at each other before sending the order. The war room then watched as the Devil Child decimated all 5 squads with a slight struggle. Send 20 squads, Du Song cruelly ordered. The war room finally witnessed the death of the Devil Child. However, at what cost? Only 3 pilots survived this encounter. On the verge of death, the Devil Child used a secret technique that reverted his body to look normal. It also pushed his strength very close to the primordial spirit realm. Luckily, one of the captains in this 20-squad small legion was a brilliant strategic mind. He forced the 3C pilots to use suicide attacks to injure and weaken the devil before everyone had a chance to kill him. About 25 squads, Du Song said, his eyes more focused than ever. That's about the number of people we need to sacrifice to kill one ordinary cultivator. He allowed his words to marinate. From the beginning, we never had a choice, Du Song continued. We must save our compatriots on the outside. Our only advantage over cultivators is that we outnumber them by 1 to a trillion. We must use this advantage and throw lives at them to kill as many as possible. The people's faces contorted after hearing these words. If that is true, the upcoming war will be a tragedy for them. How many of their kind will they sacrifice to win this war? Can they even win? How long will this war even last? Cultivators live a long life, and although that is true for mortals now as well, 10,000 years is nothing to the enemy. It's entirely possible for this war to go for 100,000 years, maybe millions. If this war ever ends, how many lives will they sacrifice? You better accept this reality as soon as possible, Du Song said before dismissing everyone. He needed to meet with the other leaders to discuss this cruel truth. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1404 Civilization War. Modern warfare. All the leaders appeared, but everyone had a somber look on their faces. With one look, everyone could guess what the others had experienced and gave a sympathizing look. Let's start by sharing data, one of the leaders said, and everyone agreed. The meeting immediately started with these leaders reviewing the battle experience of all the bases. Although there were a few outliers where one squad was enough for one cultivator, one pilot single-handed killed a cultivator, the overall result was the same for more than 2 million bases. Du Song was not the only one who decided to use numbers to eliminate the enemy, so all these leaders realized the bleak future awaiting them. Wang Wei trained them to be compassionate and look out for their fellow compatriots, but now, they had the burden of sending these young people to their death. There is some good news, said Leader Lang Shi from base number 23456. What did you find? The others knew Lang Shi was excellent at data analysis. Have you noticed that the bases with primary research on puppetry suffered fewer casualties? Lang Shi pointed out. Of course, since they did not have to send their pilots, someone sneered. And what does that tell you? Lang Shi said, rolling his eyes at this man's jealousy. Doesn't he know we are all in this together? Our focus should be building puppets, Du Song said. With more puppets, we can reduce the amount of pilots that die. We can probably replace all 3C pilots with puppets, commented another user. 3C pilots are the group that suffered the most significant casualties. That sounds like a good approach. Don't forget that the price of building one puppet is more expensive than building a 3C armor and training a 3C pilot. We can always research ways to reduce the price. Our people's lives are more important. Fair, but what do we do with the 3C pilots and lower? We increase their resources to ensure they become 4B and higher pilots, someone suggested. Those who cannot be promoted can be turned into teachers if they have the talent. As of now, puppets cannot completely replace pilots for many reasons, including costs, cultural acceptance, and more importantly, higher-level puppets require souls and cannot be easily manufactured. Do we need to vote? Someone asked. No need since we all agreed. Let's do it to make it more formal. But who will supervise this election? The Great Guardian is not here. We should probably elect a representative to lead these meetings. Do we do it now? If so, I want to be the leader. Me too. I don't trust your judgment, so I want to be the leader. What did you say? Don't think I don't remember how bad your grades were when we trained under the Great Guardian. That was the past. Enough, someone yelled. We can ask the Guardian to hold elections, but for now, we still are discussing important matters. Yes, let's get back to the main topic. Lang Shi, did you discover anything else from the data? There are a few more things, Lang Shi nodded. The bases with the highest efficiency in hunting their cultivators are the ones that used poison-based armors and assassin-type armors? Those guys that play dirty? What do you mean by this? I didn't mean, that is the point I'm making, Lang Shi cut this argument. We must use all means available to use to kill our enemy. That's how cultivators fight, and that's how we need to learn how to fight. I guess that makes sense. Pilots that include body refining into their training regimen are much higher caliber, Lang Shi continued. Lastly, the best performance armors are the flesh armors created from the cultivators' bodies. Everyone was quiet. What? Scared? Du Song sneered. Since they see us as commodities, we can do the same to them. He has a point. I know, but it's not easy to adapt to the cruel nature of this world. The Great Guardian's training warned us of this. You guys just didn't pay attention. This conversation was about to turn into another argument when everyone suddenly received an email. To be exact, it was two, all from Wang Wei. The first had this subject title, How to Incorporate Pilot and Puppet. Low-level puppets have a core that needs to be controlled by a puppeteer near it. If they need to be automatic, the puppeteers can program directions into the puppet, but its actions are still limited. Higher-level puppets need to have consciousness, meaning they must have a soul or some level of spiritual power. That's why they are so challenging to make or why they are so expensive. Wang Wei's suggestion was to use Earth's neural link technology. He suggested these mortals found a way to link a pilot's mind/soul to a puppet to replace their individual soul. With this technology, pilots can control the puppets from afar, thus reducing their casualty. Of course, this approach does not mean there will be no casualty. The soul backlash is enough to kill many pilots, and this is a world where curses and karma techniques exist. I'm always in awe of the Great Guardian's wisdom, one leader praised before checking the second email. Everyone's eyes shrunk as this one is about the new position of High Chancellor to lead this council. Wang Wei laid out rules for the election. However, the election won't happen for a while now. How these 3 million leaders respond to the upcoming catastrophe will help them in their election. Wang Wei calmly observed these leaders. Their failure was expected and could have been ever more severe. The rumor about the effects of mortal blood on the plague has spread, but Wang Wei and the other lineages have reacted swiftly, killing anyone who tried. Previously, they would only capture and seal anyone with the plague, hoping to wait until they had a cure to heal these people. However, as soon as the news spread, they changed their tactics. Wang Wei allowed some small fries to bypass their defensive lines as a test for these mortals. I just need to slowly increase the strength of these cultivators, Wang Wei analyzed. That also means it won't be long before the first confrontation between 7A pilots and law cultivators. Wang Wei waited 3 months until he allowed the first law cultivator to bypass their blockade. During this time, these mortals have fought countless cultivators and created many new tactics. Although more than 50 billion people died in just 3 months, they killed hundreds of cultivators, including many in the primordial spirit realm. Wang Wei calmly watched the battle. The mortals were suffering a devastating loss. The pilot can no longer bear it, Wang Wei commented. The law soul was responsible for building the 7A armor, but a pilot was still required. However, even if the armor was designed for mortals to use, not just anyone could control an armor with the power of law embedded in it. 7A pilots are the elite among elites. Their minds have been trained to bear the burden of the law. Unfortunately, their control over the law is subpar compared to a cultivator whose soul is countless times more powerful than theirs. Additionally, the armor designs were flawed as they failed to consider the environment. In the current battle, the repeated use of the law has created an area infested by, well, the power of law. It makes sense since the power of law could be considered the highest form of energy or power, so when one or more people use it in an area, its power will become concentrated. Such a change is nothing to a cultivator with a powerful soul, but the same cannot be said for those 7A pilots. Their frail mind and soul already had to bear such a burden with their armor's law, so this law zone became a nightmare for them. The result was that the squad composed of 20 of the best 7A pilots from all bases were massacred by this one cultivator. The leaders quickly gathered to find the source of the problem before coming up with solutions. They summoned their best rune engravers and armor makers to attend the meeting. Soon, many solutions were discussed, including better training for 7A pilots, linking their souls to bear the brunt of the power of law, and adding more souls into the armor to relieve the burden. These guys are thinking like cultivators when they should be thinking like scientists and engineers, Wang Wei muttered before sending them another message. He suggested these people stopped focusing too much on armor after the law level. Instead, they should build 7A battleships that ordinary, enlightened humans can operate. Their tactics should change to a few 7A pilots holding the cultivator long enough for their fleets, which should be composed of countless 7A battleships, bombard the cultivators into oblivion with their cannon that contained the power of law. Cultivation civilization prioritized individual power, but the strength of your mortal civilization is community, Wang Wei uttered. Heavenly Tao has broken the rules and allows you to mass-produce weak artifacts, so use it wisely. Whether it's armor or battleships, they are at the bottom of the barrel compared to the things artifact refiners make. However, their advantage is that they are cheap and can be mass-produced. That's why Wang Wei suggested they change their ways of fighting to resemble modern warfare from Earth. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1405 Civilization War, Rapid Escalation and Development, I. A monk dressed in a black robe with the character, Pin, engraved on his bald head. The monk held prayer beads on his hand and he recited Sutra, but anyone who saw him would not think he was some divine or enlightened monk. On the contrary, his Bodhis aura was cold, indifferent, and full of resentful souls. This man was an evil monk. People who claim to be evil monks, meat-eating monks, flower-stealing monks, and others have always existed in the upper dimension. During Maitreya's reign, Buddhism prospered, and these people were labeled heretics, but it was hard to eliminate them until she became one of the sons. With her immense power, these blasphemous monks were hunted down like mad dogs. In fact, she did not even have to spend too much time on them. With one thought, she could take control of the word, monk, and eliminate anyone who dared sully it. This evil monk should have been long eradicated from this world, so why was he still alive? If there is one thing cultivators are great at, it's finding a way to survive. After Maitreya's sublimation as a son and once she started eliminating these people, these evil monks ran to Taoism to find refuge. Supreme Unity knew these people could have some effect on Buddhism by ruining their reputation, so he provided them with asylum. Maitreya was not happy and wanted to retaliate. Sadly, Supreme Unity did not care as much as she did about Taoism's reputation. This decision was among the first signs of cracks between the two sons. The suffering monk waited in a dilapidated temple until two people appeared, a woman and a man. Their slightly red eyes and the fact they covered every part of their body were indications that they had the plague. Donors, you're finally here. Suffering monk, are you sure your news is true? The woman asked with a grating voice. The man did not speak but intensely stared at the monk. Donor, I'm sure you've heard of the rumors. These rumors also said nonsense like mortals now have the power to kill cultivators, the woman sneered. That is also true, the suffering monk responded. Let's go, the woman said to her partner. I told you this was nonsense. Donor, death is looming over you, but you don't seem to be in a hurry, the suffering monk said with a smile, showing his black teeth. However, that's fine too. You can slowly wait for your demise as pain and suffering slowly take your mind and spirit. When the suffering is too much, maybe you will have a chance to break the shackles of your soul and achieve nirvana. The mad monk laughed out loud with a creepy and haunting voice. Honey, we don't have anything to lose, the man finally said. Why don't we try it? He did not want to die, so even if he felt he was making a deal with the devil for his soul, he still wanted to try. This monk doesn't look trustworthy, his wife said through divine sense. I know this, but am confident we can kill him as long as we work together. All right. The plague was rapidly spreading through their bodies and souls, meaning they did not have long before they lost their minds or consciousness and died. Lead the way, the man said. Donor, you've made the right choice, the suffering monk said with a wide grin. Now, follow me and don't stray too far. The monk mobilized his law to tear open the void, and the couple followed. The three spent 2 weeks traveling before reaching their destination, a large area where more than 30 mortal dynasties lived, prospered, and competed against one another. Wang Wei had more than 1,000 screens before him, observing and analyzing. As soon as these three reached their destination, he was alerted and briefly glanced over them. He was about to ignore this group before he suddenly paused, looking at the monk. Is this how they bypassed our blockade? All the factions involved were serious about this blockage, and without Supreme Unity's direct interference, he could not understand how it happened. However, Wang Wei now had a theory. Some of these evil monks, with the proper technique, disguised themselves as true monks to bypass their blockade. This bastard truly knows how to best utilize all his pawns, Wang Wei complained and praised. Supreme Unity had many pawns, many of whom he knew, but he also labeled some useless. However, no pawn is useless if the chess player knows how to use them. Lesson learned, Wang Wei thought before focusing on the task at hand. It's been 5 years of constant training, so let's see how you guys do with this group. It's been 5 years since the base's first battle with Cultivators, but 100 years have passed for them due to the time array. Wang Wei felt it was time for a new challenge. We're here, said the suffering monk. And you're sure their blood is enough to cure the plague? The woman asked. Not cure, but slow down its spread, the monk corrected. That's enough for us, the man nodded. They are also here, the monk suddenly said. Who? The mortals. More than 1,000 lights descended from the sky, revealing this enormous ship surrounded by more than 20,000 smaller ships. What are those? The woman asked, looking at these strange-looking black ships. She did not have the words to describe them, but if she had, she would say they were sci-fi-like. Haven't I told you? The Mortals' Defense Force. You're telling me they've built such artificer wonders? It probably wasn't them, the man said. These top lineages probably gave it to them as protection. That makes sense, but how did they control them? The man shrugged, not knowing the answer. Let's prepare for battle, the suffering monk said excitedly. Battles and wars are one of this world's primary sources of pain and suffering, so he enjoys them thoroughly. Inside the largest battleship, Commander, what should we do? Commander Shiping did not immediately answer. Instead, he glanced at the monk. His intuition was telling him something was off with that monk. What is the level reading of these three? Shiping asked. Level 7. He frowned, and after a brief analysis, he relayed his orders. First, charge the Annihilation Cannon, and activate the Guardian Shield. Everyone looked at him, not hiding their surprise. None of these orders were standard and seemed extreme for the situation. However, he was the commander, so they had to listen to him. Start the initial bombardment, Shiping nodded. But don't forget we are facing a monk, so activate the highest spiritual mind protection. Everyone in the command room or other battleships heard and executed his orders. These ships immediately started bombarding these three cultivators. At first, the couple did not take it seriously until they felt the slight power of law from these cannons. Their expressions twisted, and they hurriedly used their own laws. The woman released a tempest of flames while the man played with black winds. Only the monk remained calm as his body released a black aura that easily blocked these attacks. "Target these ships," the woman said, and everyone rushed forward. "Wind and Flame Dao and a possible body refiner monk," Commander Shi commented. The monk's situation was still iffy, but he remained Shi primary concern. "Target the woman with our water cannons and the other two with lightning." The battleships immediately changed tactics, using their element counter for these two. Such a quick decision made reaching the ships more challenging for these three. However, they still made slow progress until they arrived less than 3 kilometers. The suffering monk punched forward to manifest a towering black fist. The ships reacted swiftly by activating their shields, but this attack destroyed more than 20 ships, killing countless people. The mortal's rune technology had significantly advanced, but the Soul Link technology Wang Wei proposed hadn't been developed to be used in all their ships, meaning these ships contained many humans helping control them. Commander Shi remained calm. He had experienced countless expeditions in the past 5 years, and death has become one of his eternal companions. "First, release the mist, followed by puppet legions," Shi ordered. "Command them to use Tactic 6Y4 for the woman, 9J8 for the man, and 13K9 for the monk." The battleships opened a few latches, releasing more than millions of puppets. Although most of them were 6B puppets, there were a few 7A as well. Without hesitation, these puppets rushed to their target. The couple glanced at each other before nodding simultaneously. They immediately used their famous combination attack, Wind Flame Tornado. An enormous spiral flame engulfed these enthusiastic puppets, eradicating hundreds of thousands of them. However, such an enormous casualty could not deter these mindless creatures. They had one objective and would not stop until they had accomplished their task. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1406 Civilization War, Rapid Escalation and Development, 2. These puppets seemed endless as no matter how many these three killed, more and more kept coming. "Something is wrong," the woman said. "They've killed so many puppets, but the number never disappears." "You're right," her husband agreed. "Monk, we are in an illusion." "What?" "The first wave of the enemy were actual puppets, but afterward, most of them were illusions." "Damn it, why didn't you say anything? And rob you of an opportunity of enlightenment through pain? Donor, why would I do such a thing?" The suffering monk looked at him, genuinely puzzled why he asked such a stupid question. "Damn it, I forgot these evil monks are all psychopaths," the man said to his wife through divine sense. Now is not the time to argue with him. His wife placated him. "Let's deal with the illusion first." They each took out an artifact, a cauldron with sand, and an incense burner. The man put the incense burner into the sand, immediately releasing a strange aroma that filled the surroundings. Sunlight descended from the clouds as most of the puppets disappeared. "Boom! Watch out!" the man yelled as he condensed his black wind into the densest shield he could manifest. While the puppets distracted these people, the ships had enough time to power up their cannons for one massive and mighty attack. What's more, Commander Shi used one of the most destructive elements, lightning. The result of this attack was a hole in the man's chest, and the woman was missing her left arm. Confirm injuries in 2 of the targets. "What about the monk?" Shi asked. "He appeared intact." The commander squinted. Despite the man's heart being obliterated, the commander knew this was not a severe injury. As law beings, Tier 7 cultivators do not have major weaknesses in their hearts and brains. Their souls are the crux of their survival. Of course, these cannons used the power of law, meaning they would still be injured and weakened. "Prepare to deploy the law domain at a moment's notice," Shi commanded. "Sir, we are using a tremendous amount of power and energy," someone warned. Ultimately, their creations were not as perfect as artifacts, meaning they had limitations. The commander had already ordered the activation of the Annihilation Cannon and the Great Guardian Shield, which were the 2 other things that required the most energy. Now, he activated the third most consuming thing. "At this rate, this ship won't last long." "Just do it," Shi said. He was one of the best commanders in all the bases, and the reason was due to his observation skills and intuition. He knew something was wrong with the monk, so he prepared early. As you wish. The woman regrew her arm, and the hole in the man's chest closed, but their expression was pale. However, the battle had just started. 15 7A puppets surrounded the team, with each allocated 5 puppets, and that's not mentioning the other pilots and puppets working with these 7A elites. The 6B and lower squads immediately suffered tremendous casualties at the hands of these 3, but with their sacrifices, the 7A puppets barely managed to hold against these people. I've had enough of these things, the woman suddenly yelled as she activated her Proving Tao artifact, a red necklace. The ability was ordinary as it simply boosted her flame spells and techniques, but that was enough for her. Heavenly Flame Spear Rain. The woman conjured millions of flame spears and dropped them on the Legion. She wiped out countless puppets and even a few hundred ships with one attack. However, her action was her undoing. The 7A puppets resisted, but as soon as they died, the 5 of them exploded into a water barrier seal. The woman was caught off guard, and the barrier surrounded her, sealing her into a vast ocean of water, a counter to her flame Tao. No, her husband yelled as he rushed toward the seal. However, before he could touch it, an invisible puppet appeared behind him and plunged a dagger into his brain, directly killing him. All the puppets then focused on the calm monk while the surviving ships annihilated the water barrier seal alone with the woman. So, the mortals have developed to this level, the monk thought calmly. It was now evident that he was not taking his fight seriously. Don't you care about your comrade's death? Said one of the puppets. It's not this poor monk's fault they could not find enlightenment amidst their suffering, the monk replied while calmly looking at this puppet. You must be the commander of that giant ship. Monk, leave this place and we will pretend nothing happened, Commander Shiping uttered. Unfortunately, this poor monk hasn't seen your true limit yet. Commander Shiping immediately stopped communicating and ordered, launch the domain. Tell all other ships to activate the light rainbow maneuver, and everyone will have 30 seconds to evacuate. People were shocked, but considering the worry in the commander's voice, no one objected. The other ships were also surprised, but they followed orders. They activated the domain and the protocol for the maneuver before proceeding to an evacuation area that teleported them to Shiping's ships. Meanwhile, the suffering monk suddenly felt his surroundings becoming murky, making it hard to move and breathe. The law of pain embedded in his flesh had considerably weakened. A domain? They've come so far? He could see these ships were resonating their laws to change the environment into a domain that boosted their attacks. I guess that's good enough. The monk's aura suddenly increased. Commander, the target's energy level is now 8. Everyone looked at him in shock. They did not expect the commander to predict the enemy was tier 8 instead of 7. Fire, Shiping ordered, and the sky turned bright with all these cannons firing simultaneously. Such a devastating attack could annihilate any tier 7 cultivators except for these geniuses or people with higher artifacts. However, it was useless to the monk. He first rushed to the main ships where Commander Shiping resided, but the monk targeted the remaining vessels after realizing it would take some time to destroy the Great Guardian Shield. He turned into this black light, destroying one battleship after another. These rune ships' protective shield was a joke to the monk. How long has passed since my order? Shiping asked. 5 seconds. Shiping clenched his hands before ordering, activate the light rainbow maneuver. But sir, we still have 24 seconds of evacuation. We will all be dead in 24 seconds, replied with gritted teeth. The technicians were quiet before executing his orders. The surviving ships suddenly accelerate faster than the speed of light, heading directly to the monk. They crashed at unimaginable speed, and they exploded upon contact. The sight of so many speeds turning into golden lights and forming a rainbow was indeed beautiful, but none of the survivors would appreciate such a sight. Shiping calmly watched this unfold. He knew the weight of his decision, but he had to do it. He observed for the right moment and used his authority to fire the annihilation cannon. The monk was occupied by these suicide ships. Their destructive power was nothing for a body refiner like himself, but their speed was beyond his reaction time. Then, his danger sense suddenly activated, and he wanted to move out of the way. Sadly, this attack was space-based and locked him. Boom. The Annihilation Cannon was the greatest accomplishment of mortal civilization in spatial technology. Wang Wei and many other guardians had to preach to them before they could develop it as a trump card. With one attack, the surrounding space will collapse, releasing terrifying, chaotic spatial energy that can slice through laws and domains. Shi Ping calmly watched as the monk's ruined body floated in the void, still showing signs of life. He was not surprised since the latter was a body refiner. He ordered the surviving ships to surround him and seal his body and soul. His capture should make up for some of our losses, Shi Ping thought. However, although this was logically true, he did not think so emotionally. They lost too many lives to kill this one man. Report our losses. We came with 12,600 ships. Now, only 123 remain operational. What about our loss of life? You know what, don't tell me, Shi Ping said. Deploy the salvage team to recuperate as many resources as possible, followed by the transportation crew. They need to control these dynasties and evacuate our compatriots. Many lives were lost in this fight, but once they evacuated everyone from this area, their base would have new blood to train and develop. Shi Ping left for his quarters and immediately took a gourd of wine to drink. Was it a good thing they saved these people? It appeared so, but once they returned to the base, these mortals would be trained as soldiers before being sent to their deaths. Ultimately, the same fate awaited most of them. Let's not think about this, Shi Ping uttered before gulping his wine. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1407 North and South, unedited chapter. Wang Wei nodded in satisfaction after seeing Commander Shi Ping's battle. The man made all the correct choices, so although this battle was tragic, he still won beautifully. Their civilization is already Tier 8, and they have almost cracked Tier 9 rune technology. The mortal civilization would not accept staying at Tier 8 and has been studying how to create puppets, armor, and even Tier 9 battleships. They couldn't recreate the Origin System's Dharma body, at least not yet, so Wang Wei suggested they go the path of domain evolution. In many cultivation systems, domains are the foundation for a world of law, and that's the path these mortals chose. Their idea is to follow the same method of law resonance between ships or puppets to create a domain. However, they will instead increase the number of ships, and if they arrange them using knowledge about arrays, they could build a world of law, allowing them to confront Tier 9 cultivators. They have made great strides in this technology, but Wang Wei also encouraged them to try alternate methods, for example, the path of pure energy. If these mortals can condense and control enough energy, they can injure Tier 9 cultivators. In other words, he encouraged them to learn from the pure Qi cultivation system. They were very receptive to this idea. The Eternal Ascension world is full of the incredible energy called Dao Qi. It's everywhere in the environment, and it is more versatile than Spirit Qi. With access to such a great energy source, why not use it? So, after the suggestion, these rune engravers immediately started. Unfortunately, they soon realized that controlling such vast energy was quite challenging once the level was high enough to hurt Tier 7. So, someone suggested turning all the Qi into pure physical matter for better control. This suggestion resulted in the design of a puppet bigger than the observable universe. Wang Wei was shocked once he saw the design. These mortals went and invented Gundams. Fate was an interesting thing. Wang Wei looked at the meeting of all the lords. Over 4 years ago, Du Song won the election and became the High Chancellor. Since then, he has reduced his presence before these mortals. Soon, I won't have to worry too much about you, Wang Wei thought, nodding in satisfaction. Did he understand that Grand Dao was playing him so he could use more ideas from Earth to develop these mortals? He knew, but that would not stop him from doing it. Grand Dao's move is a double-edged sword. These mortals can be of great help to Wang Wei in the future, especially since he knew he might be responsible for the All-Haven Fate calamity. Grand Dao might use his ideas in other Chaos worlds, but the mortal civilization in the Eternal Ascension world is the original version, and they will be one of Wang Wei's greatest aids/weapons. Wang Wei waved his hand to dismiss most of the screens before him, leaving one map that showed how far this plague had spread. He sent the information about evil monks to Buddhism, hoping that would help. "Sage Pure Flame, where are you?" Wang Wei uttered. "The crux of solving this matter is this bastard, but he is so slippery. He has shown up a few times in the past years, but no one has been able to catch him." Wang Wei raised his palm, summoning the Heaven's Secret Crystal. If everything fails, he'll have to use this crystal to find pure flame, but he felt it was a waste to use something so valuable on that bastard. Wang Wei closed his eyes to access his soul network and communicate with others while also monitoring the situation. The world continued to evolve, and 20 years passed. The mortals finally developed their 9A humongous puppet and made great strides in their world law. Their war of civilization with the cultivators continued and was reaching the point where Wang Wei and the others would only protect them from Tier 10 and above cultivators. Meanwhile, this plague curse continued to spread, sending the entire world into a panic state. "There is no need to hesitate," Wang Wei said as he held the crystal. "If there is any more hesitation, the situation will reach an irreversible state." However, just as he was about to activate it, he felt a slight change between heaven and earth. Wang Wei immediately observed but found nothing. He tried a few calculations with the same result. What just happened? Whatever event has occurred or is occurring is enough to affect heaven and earth, meaning it's of great significance. However, it also seems the people involved have blocked the world's secrets to prevent others from spying. Wang Wei's communication talisman vibrated, and he activated it, showing an image of Red Mask. "Did you get any news? A coup is happening in the Great Chu Divine Court." "Oh, who is so brave? Is it the third prince?" "That's right." "Interesting. I wonder where he got the confidence to fight against Shu Ren from. Did he know he was currently in a weakened state? Did you reveal the news?" "Yes. But you didn't tell me?" "Apologies, my lord. My original intention was to work with the third prince, and once everything was set up, I would bring it up. However, it seems he cut me off and found another partner." Wang Wei groaned. Red Mask has developed this bad habit of doing things before reporting. She probably thought she was taking loads from Wang Wei's shoulder and reducing his stress, but all he sees when she does this is that she's creating unknown variables that he may not be aware of. "This is the last time I will say this. Don't act on your own again," Wang Wei warned. "Any other time, I would appreciate your initiative, but not now, understand?" "Yes, Lord," Red Mask replied as she knelt on one knee. "Anything else you didn't report?" "I've made contact with Sherulan. She is our inside contact in Great Chu." Such a name brings back memories," Wang Wei commented. "I thought she was a secret child. After she proved the Tao, the Earth Emperor brought her back to the palace," Red Mask explained. "He probably wanted to monitor her better," Wang Wei sneered. "What's her current strength?" "She's still a great emperor." "As expected," he nodded. "Can you get a visual on what is happening?" "I'll try my best." Wang Wei had to wait for half an hour, but soon he saw a projection of what was going on in Great Chu. The third prince, a suave young man with bright red hair and black clothes, led an army to attack his father's palace. The imperial guards tried their best to defend the palace and prevent the prince's entry, but they were outmatched military-wise, and that's not mentioning the people secretly supporting this coup. Wang Wei watched as the third prince slowly and methodically eradicated all of the palace's defenses before heading inside. "How are you?" roared an indignant voice. Shu Ren finally showed up. The prince calmly looked at the hooded man next to him. "He's indeed weakened. But he is still a paragon." "It doesn't matter," the hooded man replied. "My plan was never to kill him in a direct frontal confrontation." "Well, I'll trust you again." The hooded man flew toward Shu Ren. "Who are you?" the Earth Emperor asked. "Don't you remember me, your majesty?" The hooded man revealed his appearance. "Prime Minister, no, I should call you Paragon Jimin." "There is no need to be so cold," Jimin said casually. "After all, I've served you for many years." Shu Ren looked at his son and snorted coldly. "That's your confidence?" A newborn paragon that has fallen down from his realm? However, the third prince simply smiled at him. He had this demeanor that everything was under control. All right, enough chit-chat, Paragon Jimin said. Over the years, he was able to return to the peak of the Empyrean realm. The lock did not affect him since he was not cultivating but regaining his strength. However, although his cultivation was low, he could still sublimate himself and return to his peak for a short period. Jimin's aura increased, and he immediately fought with Shu Ren. Their battle lasted for an hour, and despite his weakened state, Shu Ren had the advantage during most of the battle. However, it appeared that Jimin's goal was to hold him off for as long as possible. Once that was done, he evacuated along with the prince. That's it? Wang Wei thought, feeling there was more to this than meets the eye, and he was right. A few minutes later, a terrifying vision enveloped Shu Ren's territory, followed by the third prince's voice echoing between heaven and earth. Emperor Shu Ren is cold, cruel, and heartless. Instead of focusing on the prosperity of his people, he abused his right to rule, doing everything possible to keep his power. He did not even spare his children. Heaven and earth above, I, third prince Shunyanzu, see his nature and cannot accept the decline of Great Chu, so I decide to take things into my own hands. I will build the Southern Chu dynasty, hoping to free my people from suffering. As he uttered these words, the Chi Luck Dragon of Great Chu suddenly roared in pain before being divided into two. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1408 Battle for Control. Shunyanzu floated from the hair, his hand holding the luck-condensing artifact of the former Great Chu divine dynasty. A gentle smile hung on the corner of his mouth as he watched the newly formed Chi Luck Dragon of his Southern Chu dynasty. Your Majesty, please fulfill your end of the bargain, a voice suddenly echoed beside him, almost ruining Shu Nianz's happiness. Don't worry, Prime Minister, I'm a man of my word, Shunyanzu nodded as he handed the dragon seal to him while looking him in the eyes. Don't forget your part of the agreement. I want. Paragon Jimin took the artifact and immediately absorbed much of this dynasty's luck. He first focused on the residual luck from the Northern Chu dynasty before continuing to the south when someone stopped him. His aura rose exponentially, and in a matter of seconds he healed the previous backlash for forcefully sublimating, and he returned to his original cultivation state. He's here, Jimin said. How could Shu Ren allow his dynasty to be divided into two? He could have accepted the previous rebellion if his rebellious son had just taken a few of his subordinates and left the dynasty. But the bastard stole his luck-condensing artifact and divided his luck into two. Are you sure you can kill him? Shunyanzu asked. Alone, not at all, but with this. Jimin summoned a golden sword. A sword of destiny? The era of the 7 moons is coming to an end, and destiny is against them. Paragon Jimin sneered before rushing toward Shu Ren. The Earth Emperor was already weakened after trying to save Shu Shu. His situation worsened after his first fight with Jimin, and now, the latter had a sword that countered. After 10 minutes of fighting, Shu Ren tried to run away, but Jimin was prepared and blocked the area. Then, after another 20 minutes of desperate fighting, the Earth Emperor lost 1 life. Jimin took much of the latter's destiny but did not absorb everything. According to his agreement with the third prince, he returned some of it to make up for the luck he absorbed from the Southern Chu dynasty. Our agreement is finished, Paragon Jimin said. Thank you, Shunyanzu said as he received the dragon seal. Are you sure you don't want to stay? The position of Prime Minister can still be yours. I'm honored by your offer, but I'll have to decline, Paragon Jimin stated before disappearing, making Shunyanzu shake his head. His mother approached him a few seconds later. He left, the Empress asked. Yes. Then, how will we protect the dynasty without a paragon in charge? We'll have to rely on destiny, Shunyanzu replied as he looked at the sky. The Empress knew her song had some alternative plan, but since he didn't want to mention it, she wouldn't ask. Wang Wei calmly experienced Shu Ren's death, and he squinted his eyes. It's time to put the final nail in the coffin. He summoned 2 people, Monk and Jia Ping. Monk was still in the barbarian race and would take some time, But Jia Ping soon arrived. Your opportunity has arrived, Wang Wei declared before pointing at him to condense a future Buddha self, except it looked like Jia Ping instead of him. This technique will allow you to acquire the strength of your future self for a short period, but to ensure the backlash is not too severe, the strength can only go to 90%. You'll also have to team up with Monk. I understand. Wang Wei dismissed him before closing his eyes. Shu Ren returned to his secret hideout. After losing a life, he only had one left, and he debated whether it was wise to use it on Shu Shu, especially since it may not even save her. As he was hesitating, he sensed something and rushed over. Shu Shu had opened her eyes. Your Majesty? Why are you so pale? Shu Shu asked in a soft voice. Shu Ren opened his mouth but did not know what to say. Did something happen to me? Shu Shu said. My creator did say I couldn't leave the seal. I always knew this day would come. Shu'er, don't worry, you will be fine, Shu Ren said, holding her hand. She smiled gently at him. My greatest joy was meeting you, Your Majesty, Shu Shu said as she raised her weak arm to caress his face. My biggest regret is also meeting you. I would not want to experience the pain of separation in 1,000 lifetimes. Please don't say such inauspicious words. Shu Ren realized Shu Shu's body was rapidly disappearing. He gritted his teeth and immediately used the technique again, linking their existence. Your Majesty, please don't, Shu Shu said with tears streaming down her angelic cheek. It is too late for me, so don't put yourself at risk for my sake. I said you will be fine, then you will be fine. Shu Ren no longer had any more hesitation and thoroughly used that technique. He sacrificed one more life to extend her time. However, Shu Shu's words were correct. The collapse of her existence was too far along the process. Shu Ren watched as the rate of her body disappearing drastically reduced, but it was still disappearing nonetheless. What should I do? Shu Ren thought, trying not to panic. But as he looked into her eyes and saw her life force rapidly disappearing, his heart beat uncontrollably. Suddenly, as if by divine intervention, Shu Ren had a brilliant idea. Her existence contained a flawed perfection, and my 33 nether hell is also flawed. If I link her existence to the nether hell, could I use her perfection to perfect the nether hell, and in return, the nether hell will also complete her imperfection? This idea was bold and out of the box, but it may be the only way to save Shu Shu. Better yet, Shu Ren will kill 2 birds with 1 stone by completing the nether hell and becoming a true Earth Emperor. Shu Ren no longer hesitated and immediately teleported Shu Shu away. He used his control of the nether hell to link the two together. It worked? Shu Ren thought, not entirely too sure. He closed his eyes to sense the change in this dimension. Yes, the rules are being perfected, and Shu Shu's existence has stopped collapsing. No, she's slowly getting better. Shu Ren had a brilliant smile on his face. However, a terrifying aura appeared in the sky before he could celebrate for long. A man wearing black emperor clothes with dragon designs looked at Shu Ren furiously. You idiot! Ing Zheng! Shu Ren yelled. He was in such a hurry that he forgot his traitorous third son had gained some control of his nether hell by aligning himself with the great Qin dynasty. Ing Zheng ignored this idiot and pointed at Shu Shu. However, before he could succeed, 3 people showed up and blocked him, a man with 4 arms, Jia Ping and Monk. Your Majesty, the human emperor, it's an honor to meet you finally, said the 4-armed creature. Brat from the Dao opening sect, Ing Zheng said coldly. This matter does not concern you, doesn't it? I've spent much effort ensuring he can complete this nether hell perfectly. Wang Wei, Shu Ren said with gritted teeth. The latter might be using another body, but he would not forget that detestable soul aura. So, Shu Shu was all you're doing? Shu Ren asked, his hands clenched tighter than a dragon's jaw. However, Wang Wei did not even glance at him. Shu Ren was nothing but a pawn. Now, he was no longer helpful. This is my last warning, Ing Zheng said coldly. Your threat means nothing to me, Wang Wei said as he started his work. He used his control of Shu Shu to accelerate the completion of this nether hell while taking control. Zheng's face turned ugly as he fought back. He had been secretly infiltrating this place for too long, meaning he had more power than Wang Wei. However, the 33 Nether Hell had an instinct to be completed, and Wang Wei used that instinct to take more power rapidly. "You bastards!" Shu Ren screamed before flying toward Wang Wei. "Shu Ren," Monk said as he blocked his way, "when you forced me to run away from my clan, I swore an oath that I would rip your head from your body. Today, I'm here to keep that promise." The Barbarian King teamed up with Jia Ping to kill the final moon of this era. Meanwhile, Wang Wei was deep in his competition against the Human Emperor. Although initially behind, he rapidly gained momentum and soon took control of 40% of this place, while Zheng had 60%. The Human Emperor looked at him coldly before a decisive light flashed in his eyes. "Earth Sword," he uttered as a black sword with the power of samsara materialized in his hand. He struck down, cutting the Nether Hell into two, with his 60% control and Wang Wei's 40%. "I'll remember you," Zheng said as he left with his part of the Nether Hell. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1409, the end of the Seven Moon Era. Wang Wei looked at this piece of the Nether Hell, thinking what to do with it. "I should be able to complete it easily if I ask Sun Junyo's help. Then, maybe I can use it to create a body and return to my peak." However, he immediately shook his head. It would be a waste to use this thing to make a body. Additionally, a body made from the Nether Hell would be too unbalanced toward his samsara Dao, which was not conducive to his future. Shu Ren probably wanted to sacrifice this thing to the underworld to receive the title of Earth Emperor, Wang Wei thought. Zheng probably has the same idea, but he's dreaming. If the Yama Kings despised me and almost rejected my application, I doubt they would take too kindly to someone as cunning and famously cruel as Zheng. Wang Wei played with the Nether Hell that he had shrunk into a small cube. "I don't care for the Earth Emperor position, but it would be funny for me to achieve Zheng's path of transcendence after he spent countless yuan epics scheming." Wang Wei has no plan to achieve transcendence through the human, earth, heaven emperor method. However, he did not mind doing it after achieving transcendence in another manner, as it should boost him in the transcendent realm. "Then it's decided. I'll just follow their plan," Wang Wei decided before his body suddenly paused. What if there is a better way? He was inspired as he remembered a unique creature called Deva. He once read a theory in Wu Hong's library about the early development of samsara. Once any creatures died, they were reborn according to the 6 paths of samsara: Deva, gods; Asura, demigods; humans, animals; hungry ghosts; and hell denizens. Over time, the 6 paths of samsara no longer served as a way to determine how someone did in their previous life, but as racial identities. For example, if humans lived incredible lives doing good, they would no longer be reincarnated as Deva or Asura, but as humans blessed with immense luck and good fortune. The animal path is no longer a punishment but a way for the demonic race to reincarnate. However, this original system is not totally abolished, Wang Wei thought. Once someone dies and has great merit, they will have a chance to reincarnate as their former race or as a Deva. Heaven and earth bless the Deva race. They are born immortal, and until adulthood, which takes around 2 to 3 million years, no tier 10 or below power can harm them, including great emperors. Additionally, the Deva race is the original holder of the emperor bone physiques, as heaven and earth will lower a heaven will for them after they become quasi-emperors. The only difference is that their heaven will has no blessing to increase their chances of becoming eternal emperors. Few people reincarnate as Devas because of how high the requirements are and due to strong racial identities, Wang Wei thought. However, this does not matter. What if people with good karma and merit had another option, the Western Heaven? Yes, Wang Wei's idea is to turn the 33 nether hells into the Western Heaven and sacrifice it to the underworld. That way, when people die, they have another choice instead of constant reincarnation. They can live in a paradise where they are constantly happy and life is easy. This is a great idea. The Yama King should not only reward me with the true Earth Emperor position, but Heavenly Tao should also reward me with a ton of merit, Wang Wei thought before his lips started to twitch. Although this was a great idea and contribution to the world, doing so also meant he was playing into Grand Dao's hands. Forget it. It's better that I do it knowing I'm being manipulated than being blind, Wang Wei reassured himself with this clumsy excuse. His focus shifted to the battle before him. Jia Ping was already out, but it was apparent from his expression that he had successfully passed his trial to sublimate his double pupil. Why is he being so extreme? Wang Wei asked as he observed Monk's situation. The bastard was burning his existence to increase his strength, ensuring he had the power to kill Shu Ren. At this rate, even if he killed him, his cultivation will also fall to Emperor Realm and maybe less. Wang Wei frowned, considering whether he should intervene. He did not care for Shu Ren's luck and destiny since heaven and earth granted him the achievement of killing him once he used the life extension method to save Shu Shu. Forget it, this seems personal, Wang Wei thought. You're mad, Shu Ren yelled as Monk pummeled him with punch after punch. He tried to resist using his body and countless spells, but the young barbarian king's fists destroyed anything that came at it as it had only one mission: pummel this man to death. Mad, Monk said with cold eyes. The barbarian clan is a proud warrior race, and we consider it a great shame to run from battle or death. The day you pressured our clan, I was prepared for my death. Bang! Monk kicked him in the face. Do you know why I abandoned everything I believe in and ran away? Monk asked rhetorically. I saw my father, the indomitable man with an unbreakable spirit who raised me since my mother's death, knelt before me, begging that I run away. The tribe's priest, a woman who is the embodiment of wisdom and leadership, knelt before me, asking that I abandon my pride and run. My wife, my other half, the woman who is my anchor, the woman who is braver than me, crying and asking me not to be stubborn and to think about the clan's future instead of my pride. Do you have any idea the gut-wrenching pain I felt that day? Monk slapped him on his face, breaking a few teeth. He looked at Shu Ren with gritted teeth. You know the worst part about all of this? You were such a disappointment. I spent years thinking of the day I would be able to kill you myself, building you up as my ultimate target. But then, I came to find out you were nothing but a pawn that was manipulated and discarded. Shu Ren's body visibly paused after hearing these words. Monk took this opportunity to rip his arms off and inject his willpower manifestation to prevent his regeneration. If you were a true warrior, then killing you would have been worth all my pain and suffering. But you were a disappointment until the end of your miserable life. Shu Ren's eyes lost some luster as he reminisced about his life. He was once at the top of the world, but was that true? The people of the world despised and cursed his existence every day, and more importantly, he went from being In Zheng's pawn to Time Eater to supreme unity and, in the end, even Wang Weiss. He lived for so long and amassed immense wealth and power, but what did he do with them? Absolutely nothing that the world will remember fondly, and that is if they remember him at all. The only time I was truly happy was when I was with Shu Shu, but even those moments were not real. Shu Ren smiled wryly. Monk looked at him coldly before ripping his head off and destroying his soul. He looked at the head with cold eyes, preparing to turn it into a trophy to wash the greatest shame of his life. The era of the 7 moons is over, Wang Wei muttered as he looked at the sky. The roar of a dying dragon echoed between heaven and earth, followed by golden auspicious visions. Then, 13 dragons manifested in the sky in different corners of the world, symbolizing the return of the destiny of the 13 overlords. Interesting, Wang Wei commented as he realized the dragon for Buddhism and Taoism was so much grander than the others. This vast difference should bring enough pressure to these overlords in the upcoming catastrophe. Wang Wei raised his head to look at the lock. If not for that thing, this period would be when all these people in limbo started reviving themselves. Now, no one is brave enough to try to resurrect, assuming the lock did not block all resurrection. These people can only use their limited interference from limbo to make their moves on the chessboard. They'll be returning to the clan to heal, Monk said. Take care, Wang Wei nodded. Thank you for giving me a chance at revenge. I promised you, didn't I? You can contact me if you need anything, Monk said finally before disappearing. Wang Wei took Jia Ping away to the Dao burial ground since he couldn't move to retreat before returning to his hideout. He discarded the forearm flesh puppet he was using as his soul returned to his body. However, before he could even breathe, he received an emergency communication. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1410 Invader and Hurry. Someone had broken through the barrier of base number 1475837. Wang Wei frowned after hearing these words. He knew the existence of the bases could not be hidden forever, but according to his calculations, it should have taken a lot longer. He no longer hesitated and sent a projection. A handsome man with luscious black hair and golden eyes floated above the sky, observing the base with amusement, interest, and hidden greed. As soon as Wang Wei appeared, his aura suddenly changed to become arrogant and noble. "Are you the owner of these mortals?" asked the golden-eye man. "Hand them over and how you cultivate them to be so wise, and he'll offer you a decent price." Wang Wei looked up and down at this man. "A god? Oh, it seems you have a good eye. Are you from the divine faith heaven?" Wang Wei continued. "Also knowledgeable," the god said with a frown, realizing he was not dealing with an ordinary person. "Who are you?" "Wang Wei, Dao Opening Sect." The god paused. It was apparent the wheels were moving around his mind. "You know, it's taboo to lie about being part of the overlords. Now that our destiny is back, there are consequences." Wang Wei did not say anything else as a marking with 4 stars appeared on his forehead. The god looked at it, trying to control his emotions. "Fellow Taoist, my name is Divine Zhu, and it's an honor to meet you," he said before saluting. "Our 2 factions have been in cooperation for many years." Wang Wei wanted to roll his eyes. The relationship between their faction was neutral. The divine faith heaven's primary source of confrontation is competing with Great Qin for mortals and Buddhism and Taoism due to their use of faith. "I know what you want, but the answer is no," Wang Wei said directly. "Leave this area at once." Divine Zhu's pleasant expression became stiff. "Fellow Taoist, it's only a few mortals. We can negotiate a fair price." "You heard what I said." Wang Wei understood why this bastard desperately wanted the mortal civilization development method. These mortals have longer lifespans and happier lives, and the enlightened ones have high spirit powers. If they become believers, the amount of faith/incense would be so high and pure that no god could resist. Divine Zhu became cold. "Do you want to ruin our faction's relationship over these ants?" Wang Wei looked him in the eyes and released his killing intent. "Leave while you still have your dignity and limbs." Divine Zhu's soul and body felt chill, and he almost trembled. However, his pride as a god forbade him from revealing fear before an enemy. So, Divine Zhu took one last look at him and these mortals before teleporting away. Wang Wei calmly watched him fly away. "The tree has bore fruit, and now is the time to harvest," he sneered. Now that mortal civilization was cultivated to Tier 9, it was time for Grand Dao to spread the result, and the first attempt was made by this bastard god. Wang Wei knew, in fact, that the spread was inevitable. He shared the method of cultivating a Tier 4 mortal civilization with many people in the lower dimensions so these people could start from this aspect. He was never worried because he knew he would always have the advantage for a multitude of reasons. The first is culture. The cultivation world is exceptionally conservative, not liking changes to the status quo. Their immortal lives and godlike strength ensured they kept society similar for trillions of years and more. Cultivators like benefits, so they will adapt to a certain extent when needed, but unless they fully commit, their mortal civilization will only be a shell of the one Wang Wei cultivated. He has already predicted what will happen once this information is leaked. The constant worship will mean that the civilization that the gods cultivate will lack any innovative spirit. Why create new runes when you can pray for answers? Their god doesn't give them an answer? That's fine. Anyways, their lives are already filled with gods in their minds, so why is there a need to innovate? There is also the fact that these enlightened humans, who are the core for developing civilization, are wise creatures, meaning their faith in gods is not the best since they understand gods are just powerful cultivators. The mortal civilization created by dynasties and empires will have another issue: they are too self-reliant. If the mortals do not need their ruling dynasty for anything, then they become a liability. How can the dynasty use them to control the rise and fall of their chi luck? Not to mention, weak dynasties without any immortal powerhouses could not build a mortal civilization since the mortals now had the power to overthrow them. As for other factions, Wang Wei was not worried about them. Their innate disdain for mortals would not allow them to cultivate a proper civilization. Wang Wei predicted top Paragon lineages and many other overlords would develop the most basic of civilizations simply because the civilization is a high pool of talent for their faction to discover geniuses. In Wang Wei's mind, he had only a few competitors in the training of mortal civilization. The first one is his wife. She's wise and a visionary, meaning she can see far ahead the benefit of genuinely cultivating these mortals. And as the person with ultimate power in the Origin Seal continent, she can do what she pleases with no one objecting. The second opponent is Mithria. She's wise enough to see the benefits and, like Wu Hong, has ultimate power over Buddhism. Mithria is the true enemy, given how influential Buddhism is. Wang Wei also added Taoism to the list as a maybe. After supreme unity is gone, Taoism will return to its original track, and Wang Wei feared they might cultivate a proper civilization just for the sake of keeping appearance against their competitor, Buddhism. Finally, the last opponent is Emperor Kong. His main goal is to enlighten all sentient beings, meaning he will have a key mindset to train a proper mortal civilization, show the mortals respect for their craft and achievement. The academy is the best environment to nurture the academic minds of enlightened humans. Of course, despite calling these people competitors, Wang Wei would not take them seriously. The crux of this civilization is the idea from Earth, and he's the only source. With such an overwhelming advantage, how could these people compete with him? If I remember correctly, the first primal of the divine faith heaven is from the Deva race that I was just thinking about. Is this a coincidence, or am I being paranoid? He contemplated this question from every angle, and it seemed to be a coincidence, but he kept his suspicions. Wang Wei started overseeing the relocation of not just this base but all 3 million of them. He did not want to take the risk. He oversaw everything and increased the protection he previously provided to them. Although he knew this would only delay the time the information leaked, he would accept any advantage. I can no longer hesitate, Wang Wei said as he opened his eyes in his hideout. He summoned the Heaven Secret Crystal and sighed deeply before activating it. It was now a priority to find Sage Pure Flame and end this plague curse. Wang Wei did not know what to expect since this was the first time he was using the crystal. He found himself floating in this endless void with stars shining around them. After a brief observation, his expressions show a look of understanding. Are those stars physical embodiments of truths? Interesting. He focused his mind on indicating the truth he wished to acquire, the location of Sage Pure Flame. Wang Wei expected the crystal to lead him to one of the stars that contained the answer he wanted. However, he was wrong. The thing brought him to a specific area of this endless dimension. Wang Wei was puzzled, so he approached a random star, and as soon as he got close, it turned red. He chose a few more, and the result was the same. So, the truth around Sage Pure Flame is hidden by someone with a myriad of falsehoods, and if I want to find him, I must search for the correct star, Wang Wei summarized before smiling wryly. The good news is he now had concrete proof that Supreme Unity was manipulating fate and the secrets of heaven and earth. If he did not enter paranoid mode and did not rely on these things, he would have been long dead. The bad news is it'll probably take a while before I find the right star, Wang Wei sighed. The situation outside was volatile, and time was not on their side. Who knows what might happen if he takes too long searching for Sage Pure Flame? He disconnected from the crystal to leave some preparation in the outside world, like a clone, to keep an eye on the overall situation. Only then did he return to track down that bastard. Join my Discord to have many discussions about the story and so on. Here is the link, Novelcole Discord. GG/Princess If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 14:11 Pig Teamate Wang Wei opened his eyes and immediately checked how long had passed. 300 years is not as bad as I thought. He synced with his clone and had a quick update on the major events. The mortals built their Gundam and the Law world, officially becoming a Tier 9 civilization. However, they haven't given up and have been studying the power of immortal venerables and the Tao source of Tao ancestors. Wang Wei did not comment on this endeavor. Whether they succeed or not is entirely up to Grand Tao. However, one day, once he is powerful enough to confront the latter, he might be able to remove all the obstacles blocking their way forward. The plague has spread a little too fast, hasn't it? Wang Wei thought as he reviewed the memories. He analyzed everything and soon had a reason. The spread did accelerate, but the primary reason it was so exaggerated was that these overlords were too busy dealing with the aftermath of the return of destiny and thus did not allocate as much time or effort as before. Are they trying to find ways to revive their ancestors while still under the suppression of the lock? These people always run to their ancestors every time things get serious. What a bunch of fools, he cursed. The priority should be the curse, as the lock will not allow these ancestors to return. Unfortunately, these people do not like the uncertainty or lack of security in dealing with world-ending events with the protection and guidance of their ancestors. These fools might not be able to see the situation, but these people in limbo are not stupid. So, why didn't they say anything? They are silent? According to the info Wang Wei had, these people desperately contacted their ancestors in limbo, but almost no one received an answer. They must be plotting something. I hope it's useful, Wang Wei sighed before focusing on the last major news, and he finally smiled. At least there is one good news. The sage counsel he used to lure Pure Flame did proceed as usual, with his clone participating. As Wang Wei expected, there were quite a few level 1 and even level 2 sages hidden in these ancient sections. After everyone pooled their knowledge and experience, they devised a solution, an evolving purifying power. No matter how terrifying the plague is, this purifying power can analyze it and evolve to counter it. The council released this power, curing the plague for cultivators below Tier 10. Soon after, there were rumors that this cure was a way for the overlords to control people, but this approach did not have much effect. The overlords did not care about these loose cultivators and would capture them to cure them. Sadly, as previously stated, they did not focus too much on giving the cure, thus aggravating the situation. Of course, Supreme Unity would not accept defeat so easily. Countless new strands of the plague appeared, but it was useless, until a brand capable of affecting immortals appeared. The thing spread like wildfire, and in less than 25 years, it affected Tao ancestors. Truly a bunch of pig teammates, Wang Wei cursed, and that included his sect. Ancestor Yen Hai also mysteriously disappeared, making the Tao opening sect freak out, and these idiots started acting like the other factions. Wang Wei's clone urged them repeatedly, but his words had little to no effect. Luckily, Buddhism and the demon race still have some smart people. Otherwise, the situation would have been worse. Wang Wei exhaled to calm down. The situation was not looking good. The Sage Council was confident they could make Tier 10 and higher cures, but the rate at which they could create the cures was not comparable to the rate at which this plague was mutating. Luckily, I found Sage Pure Flame, Wang Wei sighed. There were a few minor events, so he focused on them to ensure he did not miss anything special. What a persistent bastard, Wang Wei thought. Divine Zhu sent an envoy to the Tao opening sect, trying to get his hands on the mortal civilization through diplomacy. Once that approach failed, the Fate Shadow Guard soon discovered they had the method as someone from the lower dimension sold it. However, these bastards were not satisfied with this and started kidnapping the pilots, puppets, and legions sent from those bases when they were on a mission. Divine Faith Heaven, if your faction still exists in the Transcendent era, then my name will no longer be Wang Wei thought with gritted teeth. He was already in a bad mood. Unfortunately, these bastards became the last straw. He controlled his emotions as he needed to be calm for his upcoming action. Capturing Pure Flame is a must, but he will not just rush into it without any preparations. Wang Wei will not wholly trust the Heaven's secret crystal and prepare for many possibilities. The process took him 3 days. Linbo, a handsome man with luscious black hair adorned in golden robes, opened his eyes. They had no pupils but glowed like stars. This man was the first primal of the divine faith haven, Supreme God Tian. "Father, is something wrong?" asked a young boy about 12 years old beside him. "I sense a warning," Tian said with a frown. "Something must have happened to heaven." The young boy frowned after hearing this. He knew his father was a deva, meaning he was extremely loved by heaven and earth, thus granting him extreme senses. So, if he sensed something, there must be a reason. "He'll go check it out." "Father, you can't. Remember? We already signed the contract." Tian paused. If he returned to the world of the living, he might indeed ruin the plan. However, he only accepts out of the interest of his faction, so what would be the point if the plan succeeds and his faction is no longer? He'll go talk to Qiyuan and the others to see if they can compromise. Although Tian said this, he was not too hopeful. Everyone understood what kind of opponent they were facing, and no one would want to jeopardize this plan because of his sudden whim. The worst part is ensuring success. The price engraved in their signed contract was horrifying, and no one could accept it. Wang Wei looked at this tiny mountain located at what could be considered the fringes of this world. His eyes penetrated the hidden dimension and spied on the people inside. Is that a Tier 12 creation life? No wonder no one could catch him, Wang Wei thought. His gaze turned to Pure Flame, who was purifying countless cultivators with a look of anger and madness. Wang Wei sneered. The status of sage does not have a morality restraint, at least not from heavenly Tao. If someone meets the merit requirements, they can condense the golden body of merit and the status will not be revoked. Wang Wei loves his freedom, meaning he would have never accepted the restriction of morality for the golden body. Despite what Pure Flame did, he was still a sage. However, Heavenly Tao was unhappy with his shady move of helping Supreme Unity and locked his golden body at level 1. He might really be mad, Wang Wei said as he observed. Pure Flame behaves like his golden body should have improved as long as he purified these captures. However, that's not how it works. It's all about merit, and he should know this. Something is definitely wrong, Wang Wei thought, feeling he may have overlooked something significant. If Supreme Unity wanted the source of the virus that made Pure Flame into a sage, he already has it. So, why is he still alive? That virus is the last piece of 5 Feathers Plague formula. Anyone with some wisdom will understand how necessary that knowledge is, so why does Supreme Unity keep anyone with the information alive? Is he trying to lure me here? Possible, but without direct intervention, the chances of him killing me are low, Wang Wei thought as he raised his alert to the highest level. He observed Pure Flame's every move while trying to hide his presence from the Tao ruler. Something is wrong with that dimension. The entire layout is a strange formation, Wang Wei thought with squinted eyes. No, not a formation, a ceremony. To be precise, a sacrifice. Wang Wei had dabbled in ceremony magic in the lower dimension, and he had read much in his future wife's library, so he swiftly put the pieces together. The madness of a sage, symbolizing the transition from glory to decadence, from light to darkness. In other words, a yin-yang transition. There is a second core that seems to be self-sacrifice. That's obvious. Pure Flame is about to kill himself in his madness. Once these 2 requirements are met, this ceremony will release a devastating power, but what is the target? Why can I figure it out? Damn it, regardless, I can't allow this bastard to die. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1412. Is this checkmate? No, it's not. As soon as Wang Wei barged in, his mind quickly detected new aspects of this ceremony that he couldn't see from the outside. He saw a significant part involving destiny and a second aspect made for him. The act of trying to stop this ceremony and failing will convert into the power of regret that further boosted its strength. Damn it, he cursed before using a sure kill technique he had recently developed. The Transcendent Sword Slash. Wang Wei took the fundamental essence of his transcendent luck and his perfection, allowing him to access the power of Transcendent. Of course, this power of Transcendence is not even 1/1,000,000th of the true power of half-step Transcendent, but it is a devastating attack for anyone in the Paragon realm. Wang Wei swung his sword, and with that one strike, he should have annihilated this dimension alone with this ceremony. However, things didn't go as he wanted. The Tao ruler protecting Pure Flame reacted to his attack by summoning a Paragon artifact, the 10,000-layer pagoda. So, the result of that devastating blow only did one thing: destroy the body Wang Wei was occupying and kill the Tao ruler. Wang Wei's soul looked at the pagoda that remained intact from his attack. I could never destroy the ceremony in the first place, Wang Wei thought with a grave expression. The pagoda contained even more power of transcendence than his attack. No, the comparison was like a river and a tiny mosquito, meaning this thing was created by Supreme Unity's vessel. "It's you," Pure Flame yelled with a twisted expression. "It's all your fault. Everything is all your fault." Wang Wei glanced at him. It was impossible to get to him with this damn pagoda, and this bastard's mind was too far gone for any effective communication. My next step is containment, Wang Wei thought, feeling a sense of urgency. His intuition had risen to the highest level, telling him not to allow this ceremony to continue. Wang Wei disappeared from the dimension. "Get back here," Pure Flame yelled. "You bastard, don't you dare ignore me?" Wang Wei had already isolated this area before coming. That's the most basic cautionary measure. Now, he was going to use that idea to the extreme. He did not hesitate to remove the limit on his soul to access his hidden soul power from his time in the void and used that energy to engrave sealing formations. Pure Flame had about 2 to 3 minutes before he succumbed to his madness, and this was enough time for Wang Wei's Paragon soul to engrave billions of these seals. Boom! The dimension finally collapsed, turning into 33 red magic circles stacked on each other to form a funnel. However, before the circles could be fully deployed, a white shield composed of countless smaller sealing arrays formed a barrier to isolate their effects. Was it a success? Well, Wang Wei wasn't celebrating yet. His eyes remained closed, focusing on building more and more sealing arrays. His reaction was proved correct as the 33 magic circles started to fight back, creating cracks in the barrier. But as soon as a tiny flaw, countless new arrays would appear to make it up. Time was on Wang Wei's side since the longer this confrontation lasted, the more sealing arrays he would have built. But would the person who designed such a brilliant ceremony let his work be destroyed so easily? Tao Beginning Palace. A red mist suddenly surrounded the entire place, followed by an order for all Taoists to return. It did not matter whether they were still fighting against Buddhism or had permission for a special retreat. They had to return. Although confused, these people had no choice but to follow, who made their boss one of the two sons. People were intrigued by this sudden move. Ever since Xu Ren's death, corrupted Taoism had practically lost the war and was forced to guide a few areas. Neo-Taoism, who followed Mithria, now controlled most of the former territories. After the corrupt priest returned to the Tao Beginning Palace, an intense blood light rushed into the sky, entering a spatial portal that everyone wanted to know led to where. However, before anyone had a chance to move, another vision appeared between heaven and earth. Taoism Chi Luck Dragon manifested in the air and roared in agony before its body shrunk to the same size as the other overlords. Everyone was shocked, wondering what the meaning of those two visions was. Wang Wei opened his eyes with an ugly expression and appeared a few kilometers to his right. He released the best protective shield he knew. A terrifying red light burst in that exact spot, instantly annihilating his shield. The red light headed toward him, and Wang Wei's expression immediately changed. He was currently in soul form, meaning it was easier to get contaminated by something. So, he distanced himself from this thing. Unfortunately for him, the red light seemed to have expected this outcome and immediately headed for his barrier. Wang Wei realized his mistake and rushed over, but it was too late. The red light freed the magic circles before fusing with them. Then, the world saw a third worldwide vision. 33 blood-red magic circles fused into one before dissipating. Wang Wei looked at the sky. To say he was gloomy was an understatement. Currently, his intuition was screaming, It's game over, we have lost. He exhaled deeply, waiting for whatever this thing was, and he was not the only one. However, a few minutes later, nothing seemed to have changed. Am I overthinking? Wang Wei thought, but he hadn't finished his thought when he received an emergency call from Chancellor Du Tsong, so he accessed the Void Illusion realm. Great Guardian, please save us, Du Tsong yelled, tears streaming down his eyes like a baby. The prideful and confident High Chancellor was panicking beyond words could explain. What happened? They are dying. More than 100 trillion every second, Du Tsong said with a choked voice. Wang Wei's face became ugly as he immediately teleported to the bases. I should have thought about this. His original target has always been the mortals, Wang Wei said with gritted teeth. He was so focused on the fact that Supreme Unity wanted cultivators to kill the mortals as that would deal the greatest blow to Heavenly Tao that he ignored that Supreme Unity's ultimate goal is to wipe out all life, and how achieved it is just a bonus point. It's not like he's a perfectionist and must do things in specific ways. The curse had reached the mortals, and this version was cruel. As soon as someone caught it, they would die in seconds. Wang Wei summoned his golden body of merit to release a blessing throughout the base. Death is extended to 20 seconds, he thought with a grave expression. His attempt was essentially useless. He activated a technique called Death Senses and he soon saw it. The curse was already worldwide, and mortals died in the trillions every second. At this rate, we have less than 5 years before all mortals disappear from the eternal ascension world. Wang Wei was not angry, discouraged, despaired, or felt any desire to curse or vent. Instead, he felt remarkably calm. Red Mask contacted, so he answered. I know about the mortals, so there is no need to report that part, Wang Wei said directly. Use Divine Sense for the fastest communication speed. All the survival members from the corrupt Taoism side have been sacrificed in the Tao Beginning Palace, and Taoism no longer has the destiny of a Sunday. Oh. Red Mask showed him a recording of the vision. So, that's how it is, Wang Wei muttered. He understood how far this bastard went to release this incurable plague to the world. The good news is he is now technically no longer the leader of Taoism and has no access to their luck and resources. His access to the world has been cut off beside the lock. Of course, once all the mortals die, the blow it will deal to Heavenly Tao is enough for him to wrestle more power and allow for his return, Wang Wei sneered. Although it seems he made great sacrifices for the mortal plague, it was not as much when you consider how he will recuperate them later and even make more profit. Anything else? Everyone is panicking about the situation of the mortals, and the sect has ordered that you return home at once to take control, Red Mask reported. Wang Wei nodded before dismissing her. Returning to the sect is pointless unless there is a solution there. The current situation screamed checkmate, but Wang Weiss doesn't. There is still a way, there must be. Brother, things are getting out of hand, Yen Hai said. Don't worry about them. They signed the contract and must abide by it. But that was before. Nothing has changed, Chiyuan replied calmly. Are you really leaving everything to that kid Wang Wei? It's obvious that he failed. No, I agree with Big Brother, Battle Maniac added. Look at his eyes. This is not the eyes of someone that has admitted defeat. No, this is the eyes of a beast that has been cornered for the first time and is about to tear apart his opponent. Third brother is right, Chiyuan said. This kid has never meant his match intellectually until now. In a technical sense, this is his first time being cornered in an intellectual battle, and it seems to have sublimated him. That's why I insist we wait and continue with the original plan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1413 The Awakening Mind. Wang Wei calmly looked at all these mortals dying. The surviving one gazed at him in the sky with fear and hope. I opened Pandora's boxy by suggesting the plague curse to 5 feathers. An intense flood of regret rushed into his mind, but Wang Wei's mind, who was already in an extreme mode of dealing with the solution, automatically cut off these negative emotions as they were useless in coming up with a solution. Wang Wei's senses locked into a dying young man. This young pilot should have died long ago, but the blessing from the golden body extended his life. Wang Wei's mind immediately caught into something. The main cause of this disaster is a sage, and a sage should end it. He immediately extrapolated a new solution from this idea. Wang Wei disappeared, first contacting Sage Lin Qi. They rapidly through divine sense, trying not to waste any time at all. I apologize, but this is the only method I can think of. No need. I'm glad to help, and something told me this would be my destiny, Lin Qi said. Is there anything you need? Wang Wei continued. Just keep your promise. Don't worry, as long as the Tao opening sect exists, your life work will also exist. That's all I want to hear. Wang Wei bowed deeply to him before leaving. However, just as he was about to disappear, Sage Lin Qi asked, after this is over, I mean, after you destroy the lock, is it possible? I'm sorry, but no. I figured as much, Lin Qi sighed. But I couldn't help asking. Thank you for the mortal civilization. Nothing brought me more joy than seeing them develop and grow to the point of being self-independent. No problem, Wang Wei said before disappearing. He had to call a meeting of the highest order from the Sage Council, followed by asking for help from the overlords, and lastly, track down Jimin. This is the plan, Wang Wei stated to the Sage Council. Anything to add? I can improve your formation by 10 to 15%, Emperor Kong added. Good. Do we all have? This is a small price we will pay compared to Sage Lin Qi, Wang Wei cut him off before finishing. No, since no one has anything else to say, let's have it in writing before proceeding with the ceremony. Once everyone wrote their names, Wang Wei and Emperor Kong headed to Light City Domain, a small area in the Myriad Clan Union's territory. This place is also where Sage Lin Qi was born. Establishing the ceremony at a place of origin can increase its potency. They found a small mountain range and rearranged the mountains to form the core array of the ceremony. Wang Wei twisted countless Tier 12 metals into a small altar that he placed on top of the hill at the center. Everything was finished an hour later, and they immediately started the ceremony. Sage Lin Qi took his place at the center while the remaining 22 sages each stood on an individual mountain. All bow to the Sage of Virtue, Wang Wei said, and all the sages, including himself, bowed 180 degrees to Lin Qi. Their actions started the ceremony as an intense power condensed in this area with this simple bow. A bow from the chosen of destiny. After uttering these words, Wang Wei flew in the air, ensuring he was exactly 33 meters from his spot, and bowed a second time before descending. A bow from the one who seeks to enlighten all sentient beings. Emperor Kong followed his exact steps, and Wang Wei proceeded to call the remaining level 2 golden bodies. Now, for the honorary guests, Wang Wei continued. The one who started the end of this era. A projection of Sun Junyao appeared 33 meters above the sky and bowed politely to Sage Lin Qi before dissipating. The one who put the last nail on this era. Monk's projection appeared, and he saluted. By now, the amount of power condensed by these acts had turned into his golden ocean circulating around the central mountain. A salute from the Paragon of Hope, Wang Wei continued. Paragon Jimin's projection appeared and saluted Sage Lin Qi. Respect from destiny, Wang Wei continued. All 13 Qi luck dragons from the overlords manifested 33,000 meters above the sky, circling Lin Qi's mountain while singing the most beautiful song between heaven and earth. Next is the power of vengeance, Wang Wei stated as the dragons disappeared. A Taoist priest appeared 33 meters below the mountains and threw what seemed to be a broken piece from a luck-condensing artifact. His action immediately condensed a newfound power to add to the overall vast reserve. The priest did not stay long as there were more acts of grievance. Wang Wei did not have to do much for this part of the ceremony since the world had too many grievances, including cultivators and mortals. The sage's sacrifice, Wang Wei uttered with squinted eyes. This was the most important aspect of the ceremony and the part that will truly determine whether Lin Qi can save the mortals. Wang Wei and all the other sages' golden body manifested 33 meters above the sky before dissipating into golden sand particles. Lin Qi's golden body appeared at the center and immediately absorbed the particles. Then, in a matter of seconds, it grew to level 3. Everyone calmly watched this happen. While some did not hide the pain of losing their golden body, no one hesitated. Finally, it's the ultimate sacrifice from a sage of virtue, Wang Wei said softly. Lin Qi asked him whether there was hope for his revival or possible return, and Wang Wei told him no. But in fact, he did not know whether that was true. However, he knew that only a true act of sacrifice would make this ceremony possible, so it would be detrimental to the process if Lin Qi had any kind of hope when he did it. Everything started with the mad sage Pure Flame, but it will end with the sage of virtue, Lin Qi, Wang Wei thought. Among all the sages, Lin Qi is the only one who can bear the title of virtue. He never became a sage out of any desire for power or merit. No, his golden body was only the product of doing what he wanted in life, protecting people. The third-tier golden body started absorbing all the condensed power from the ceremony before fusing into Lin Qi, turning his demeanor nobler and gentler. Then, Lin Qi flew into the sky, far away from the ceremony. Heaven and earth above. His voice, which still contained an inherent kindness, bombed between heaven and earth. The world is in turmoil, with all sentient beings tormented by a sea of suffering. All my life, I have lived by the creed that you must help as long as you can. I was helpless before, but now, I know what must be done. I hope this humble life of mine can become a beacon of hope for the world. As Lin Qi uttered his last words, he took one last look at the world before turning into this mass of golden light that spread in all directions. Wang Wei and everyone paying attention to this ceremony followed the light to see whether this thing was successful. And it was. Any mortal or cultivator touched by the golden light will be instantly cured. There was zero resistance for the entire process. It was as if this golden light wave was the embodiment of all that was holy and pure. The golden light washed every corner of this vast world, not leaving a single diseased individual without a cure. Then, it became a golden sword attacking this invisible humanoid-shaped red ghost. This thing was the source of the pure flame ceremony, and the golden sword extinguished it with only a few slashes. However, to everyone's surprise, the golden sword did not dissipate but rushed into the sky directly toward the lock. Many people immediately hoped, thinking, could this be how they attain their freedom? Sadly, they were soon disappointed. The golden sword tried its best but did not even leave a mark on the lock. The world heard a deep sigh of regret as the sword dissipated. Wang Wei calmly watched all of this. He was not surprised by the sword's outcome against the lock. However, just as he was about to leave to proceed to the next step, something unexpected occurred. You can summon me once. Sage Lin Qi. Remember, one more time. I understand, Wang Wei nodded. It seems Sage Lin Qi did not immediately disappear, but Heavenly Tao turned him into a powerful force between heaven and earth. That's good to hear since he'll be needing all the help I need, Wang Wei thought before leaving with everybody else. He needed to check on his mortal civilization to see how many people survived. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1414 Return Home Unedited chapter of the 3 million bases, only 333 remained, meaning the number of mortals that died is simply incalculable. As Area 0 of this plague, Wang Wei was expecting this outcome and even worse. You're alive, Wang Wei stated as he gazed at Du Kong. Unfortunately, Du Tsong replied in a hoarse voice with clothes splattered in blood, listless eyes, and unkempt hair. Suddenly, he thought of something and stood up. He rushed toward Wang Wei and knelt on the ground. Great Guardian, you're a mighty cultivator with godly power. You must be able to do it, right? After all, we are mortals, so it should be easy to bring them back, right? I can't, Wang Wei said, shaking his head. Du Tsong's body paused before he asked in gritted teeth, can't or want? Can't, Wang Wei replied truthfully. The person who killed them is much more powerful than me, and that's not to mention Samsara is currently isolated, so I couldn't even find their souls if I wanted to. Du Tsong let go of his clothes before sitting loathingly on the floor. His last hope was gone, and the truth punched harder than the power armor their civilization had built. Du Tsong could no longer help it and started bailing on the ground like a baby. Wang Wei was waiting for him to finish, and he had the intention to wait a few hours. However, he sensed despair, overwhelming Du Tsong with each passing second. Survivor Gilta? He thought before finally speaking, "Do you intend to continue your job?" Du Tsong's crying abated slowly until he was silent, but he did not look at Wang Wei or move from his crying position. "I'm about to move the survivors," Wang Wei continued. "Your new location will have countless members of your species. I need someone to continue leading them and finish what this place started. So, I need to know whether I can count on you or if I need to find someone else." Du Tsong looked at the sky for a few seconds before standing up and fixing up his attire. He bowed politely to Wang Wei before walking to his post. It's better to be taciturn than give up in despair, Wang Wei thought before helping. He spent 3 days reassuring the survivors, but the primary reason it took so long was because he held the grandest funeral for all the departed. Wang Wei even built a monument that contained all the names of the fallen, both in the final plague or the previous civilization wars. Finally, once that was dealt with, he put the remaining base in his personal dimension before returning to the Dao burial ground, taking away all his people. Central Origin Realm. As soon as Wang Wei arrived in that area, he activated a token that teleported him to another dimension. The first thing he experienced was chains of mountains and islands floating in the air, forming a ring. The beautiful and familiar sight brought Wang Wei a sense of peace and calmness he hadn't felt since ascending. "They should have kept the massive chains," Wang Wei commented. The main difference between this place and the lower dimension was not the vastness but the lack of chains connecting the different mountains. "They were there long ago but became a liability at one point and were removed," said an elderly woman with a bright smile. "You are?" Wang Wei asked the woman leading the delegation. "I'm Grand Elder Yen Shui," she said before introducing the man next to her. "This is this generation's sect master, Yu Kai." Wang Wei cupped his hands and bowed to them. "It's an honor." "The honor is all ours," Yu Kai said with a smile, and he meant those words. Although he hadn't met Wang Wei, he knew of the latter's achievements outside and how capable he was through their communication that often used Red Mask as a medium. "We've recreated your transcending fate mountain from the news we gathered about you. I hope you don't mind." "No, it's fine. I think I need something familiar about now," Wang Wei nodded. "That's good to hear. This is your official token," Yu Kai said as he handed him a purple token with the character seed. "This is... Your official title is the Sex Primal Seed, but we can change it to something else if you need." "No, but I'm curious about the different divisions. Why don't I explain why we fly to our destination?" Yu Kai suggested, and this small group flew toward Transcending Fate Mountain. "All mortal disciples are divided into regular and sacred sons," Yu Kai explained. "Although there are other divisions like outer and inner disciples, they are only used to measure their training speed. What truly matters is whether they can become of the 3,000 sacred sons." "Sacred son," this word brought memories, Wang Wei commented. "The role of all sacred sons is to become, at minimum, a pseudo-eternal. Those who succeed will become true disciples and continue to receive unlimited support from the sect to become everlasting Empyreans. Those who failed will become outer deacon elders. Afterward, true disciples will become legacy disciples if they become everlasting, and peak seeds if they become boundless." "Peak seeds? They have the potential to become peak paragons," Yu Kai explained. "Peak seeds, like legacy disciples, do not have to participate in the sect's management and have priorities over most resources. So, the two ascending paths of power in the sect are the disciple and elder way." "That's correct," Yu Kai nodded. "Non-everlasting Empyreans become inner deacon elders, and paragons become great elders. Are peak paragons supreme elders?" "That's right." "Then, what about the other path cultivators?" Wang Wei asked. All these statuses and labels seemed only to mention the Emperor path. "They are also outer and inner deacon elders, except with worse status and power, and can only become elders at tier 12 unless they prove themselves as true insurgents." "I can already tell how much these Emperor path people would complain," Wang Wei commented, and Yu Kai gave him the look of someone who understood his pain. These rules have existed for a long time, but every sect master must handle these people's non-stop complaints. What about the sect master position? How is that chosen? Wang Wei asked. From the legacy disciples, Yu Kai explained. The luck from the position greatly increases the possibility of passing the Paragon immeasurable tribulation, so many legacy disciples who are not too confident will compete for the position. That makes sense, Wang Wei nodded. I guess there are no longer any rules about the shadow being able to replace the sect master. That rule still exists for the mortal disciples. As long as their shadows show more promise than their master, they can take the sacred sun position away. Wang Wei was surprised. This rule was not something Qiyuan or Yanhai created, so he thought it would not have applied to the upper dimension. Shadow Ruler must have added it after his ascension. The team arrived, and Wang Wei observed his new home. It looked exactly the same, except this mountain was towering compared to the one at home. As he glanced at his small manor, a look of nostalgia flashed in Wang Wei's eyes. Maybe it was the wrong choice not to involve the sect in all this confrontation. He's been feeling like this, hence why he decided to return to the sect now. Of course, it's also because he had an outline of a plan in his mind and needed all the resources possible. Wang Wei walked through his manor, his mind full of memories of his parents, Li Jun, Yan Liling, and Wu Hong. He touched the walls, looking at every corner. I didn't realize how lonely I was until I saw this place, Wang Wei sighed. Now was not the time to reminisce, so he summoned the people outside. Thank you, Wang Wei said to Yu Kai. The credit is not mine, but Grand Elder's Yan Shui, he swiftly explained. Wang Wei looked at her and thanked her sincerely. I'm old, so I've experienced the ascension of a few of the Supreme Elders. One thing they have in common is they usually grow nostalgic for their time in the lower dimension and find any way to keep the memory of that time alive. I figured you would be the same. No matter how powerful we are, ultimately, we are humans and creatures of habits, Wang Wei sighed. All right, let's get back to business. Why don't you introduce some of these people to me? Yu Kai and Yan Shui were accompanied by a small group, but these people didn't say anything during the entire journey. Oh yes, Yu Kai said. Let's start with the 9 patriarchs, beginning with the Wang clan patriarch. A fat man with a bulging belly and the aura of a peak everlasting stood up and bowed to Wang Wei. Patriarch Wang Si. Please take care of me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 14-15 The Counterattack starts. It'll be in your care. Wang Wei nodded politely. We need to find a date for your patriarch ceremony, Wang Si added. I just returned, so there is no need to be talking about the transfer of power, Wang Wei said. No, these are the rules, Wang Si insisted. The patriarch position will be beneficial to your Paragon tribulation, and all your achievements or accomplishments will further nourish the Wang clan's luck and destiny. In that case, wait until I'm about to pass the tribulation. As you wish, Wang Si nodded. One last thing, you can choose a few of the human fiend gods to serve you. Most of them worshipped you and would love to work for you again. I will, Wang Wei nodded. All the human fiend gods originated from the lower dimension and knew Wang Wei, so it might be a good idea to transfer them to his transcending fate mountain to serve under him. Let's continue, Sect Master Yu Kai continued. This is Matriarch Li Yang and Patriarch Yan Di. Li Yang was a beautiful woman with extraordinary red lips and naturally charming eyes. Yan Di was an emo man. His hair, clothes, eyes, and jewelry were all black, and even his aura was dark and depressing. Wang Wei bowed to them, and Li Yang immediately asked, "When is the Eternal from our clan ascending? We understand their unique situation, but could you elaborate in more detail?" No problem, Wang Wei said before explaining Li Jun and Yan Liling's situation to them. So, it will take a while, Li Yang said in disappointment. The sect may have too many Eternals to count, but it was different for Eternals from the lower dimension. Destiny is in the lower dimension, meaning it was easier to give birth to great talents. From the information Li Yang and Yan Di have gathered, Li Jun and Yan Liling have already shown signs of being peak seeds, hence their excitement for their possible rise. Thank you for preserving the unity between our clans, Matriarch Liang said to Wang Wei. She understood the overwhelming power he had in the lower dimension, and if he wanted, he could have turned the lower dimension sect into the puppet of the Wang clan. Wang Wei nodded to her, and Yu Kai introduced the other families. This is Patriarch Long, Matriarch Xie, Patriarch Tang, Matriarch Su, Patriarch Yin, and Patriarch Zhou. The 6 of them stood before Wang Wei and bowed politely. He returned the salute before looking at Matriarch Xie, a small woman with green clothes and intense eyes. If I remember correctly, the Supreme Elder Shadow Ruler took the name Xie? He is our ancestor, she replied succinctly. Wang Wei nodded and did not ask any more. Yu Kai took over the conversation again. Those are the elders taking care of different aspects of the sect. Let's start with the disciplinary hall elder. For the next hour, Wang Wei met all the upper echelons and had a basic understanding of the upper dimension sect's operation and rules. Finally, he signaled that only the Grand Elder and Sect Master stayed for an important meeting. First thing first, I need you guys to perfectly replicate this thing before its owner comes asking for it, Wang Wei said, sitting cross-legged with a small golden tablet floating above his palm. The tablet released an intense Dao rhyme, forcing Yu Kai and Yen Shui to squint. Is that the Skill Dao Association's Dao Path tablet? Elder Yen Shui asked. That's right, Wang Wei nodded. He split all the resources from the Northern Chu dynasty with Monk after killing Shu Ren, and this tablet was one of the prizes they shared. Elder Yen Shui played with the tablet in her hands. We currently have only one person who can refine Tier 12 products while still in Tier 11, but he's a pill refiner. The best we can do is a false product. The Overlord's destiny has returned, so it won't be long before the association asks for their treasure back, Yu Kai stated. In that case, we need to delay for as long as possible so we can buy time to copy it, Wang Wei decided. In the meantime, we can start the preparation. That's not an issue, Yu Kai nodded. I promised the barbarian race they could copy our copies, don't forget that, Wang Wei added. One of the primary reasons this thing was in his hands, even though Monk was the one who killed Shu Ren, is that the barbarian race could not bear the pressure from the Skill Dao Association, but the Dao Opening Sect could. If you say so, Yu Kai nodded. The Primal Seed has a lot of powers in the sect, especially regarding the utilization of resources. Besides a few things that may require the ancestors to sign up, there are almost no limits to their resources. Of course, the criteria needed to get this position are also insane. Throughout the sect's history, there have only been 3 prior primal seeds, and only one, Ancient Desolate, lived to that name. About the second matter, Wang Wei continued. I need to comprehend something, but it is extremely challenging and will take me too long on my own. Is there a way for me to comprehend it in less than a yuan epoch? Elder Yen Shui frowned. He knew how talented this young man was, and he was saying someone of his caliber was about to comprehend something challenging. What level is such a thing? She suddenly thought of something, and a look of realization flashed in her eyes. You could use the experience pill, which would allow you to experience the point of view of whoever created whatever you wish to comprehend, even if it was heaven and earth, Elder Yen Shui suggested. No, he can't, Yu Kai said. Don't you remember? We used the last experience pill trying to summon the mortalhood trial. Oh, that's right, Elder Yen Shui nodded before frowning as she could not think of another suggestion. The only option left is the mind dilation pill, but, Yu Kai said, the side effects are too severe, Elder Yen Shui disagreed. No, let's do it, Wang Wei said. He knew of the mind dilation pill, a Paragon-ranked pill that can dilute time between the mind and the outside. In some extreme cases, 1 second inside a person's mind might equal 10,000 yuan epochs outside. However, the faster the time dilation, the greater the burden on the soul. Oh right, I forgot you already have a Paragon soul, Yen Shui nodded. Regardless, you should give him some soul protection pills. No problem, Yu Kai said as he stood up. Anything else? No, that's it for now. Good. Although he didn't have to, Yu Kai went to gather the resources personally. I know you'll be busy, but I'll leave you on your own device. Don't hesitate to call me if you need something, Elder Yen Shui uttered before also leaving. What do you think? Wang Wei asked the empty room. Swish. Red Mask appeared before him, kneeling on one knee. The Wang, Li, and Yen clan are excited for your return, but the other 6, not so much. Wang Wei nodded before motioning her to continue. Your presence will further consolidate the 3 main clans' power, especially if you can become the 5th primal/ancestor, Red Mask explained. Most of the 6 clans appeared neutral of your presence, except for the Su and Zhou clan. Their leaders tried to hide their emotions, but I could still detect it. Wang Wei nodded as he looked at his token. The fact that they already had a status for him showed they had prepared long ago, most likely due to Ancestor Yen Hai's orders. Anything else? The Great Elder and Matriarch Xie detected my presence. Oh! Wang Wei was not surprised Elder Yen Shui discovered her since he detected her essence was once that of a paragon, but it was something else for Matriarch Xie. She's probably in the shadow business like myself, Red Mask continued. And she's exceptional at her job. Is that so? Wang Wei muttered. During my retreat, I need you to establish yourself in the sect. Use the opportunity that these clans do not have the protection of their powerful ancestors to infiltrate their ranks. I want to be able to know what kind of underwear their patriarch is wearing. Do you understand? No problem, but do I have a bottom line? Play by the rules as long as they do the same, Wang Wei instructed. I want to be informed, not break the foundation and unity of the sect. He needed to start preparing for the future, and that's one of the reasons he returned to the sect now. The 7 Moon era was gone, leaving only 7 Cauldron and Time Eater. 7 Cauldron is a walking skeleton, as her body will definitely collapse once she is no longer a vessel, leaving Time Eater as the last remnants of the previous era. Wang Wei's plan might involve Time Eater's death, meaning he was also living on borrowed time. Now was the time to return to the sect and prepare for the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1416 Asking Grand Dao. After receiving the resources, the first thing Wang Wei did was to reinstall the formation on the transcending Fate Mountain. Although he trusted the sect, it was not to this level. Once that was done, he released Wang Qi and the others and provided them with the proper identity to allow them access to certain things in the sect. Only after dealing with these mundane tasks did Wang Wei finally enter his retreat. Let's get this over with, Wang Wei muttered. His first task was not to understand the lock. Instead, he used his ability acquired for his achievement as an immeasurable emperor, which allowed him to communicate with Grand Dao. Wang Wei's spirit left his body before founding himself in this infinitely white space with one towering eyeball glancing at him. He immediately felt an immense pressure on his soul. Regular people cannot directly face Grand Dao's presence without any repercussions. What is your request? Cold and indifferent words entered Wang Wei's mind. There was no source of sound or any fluctuation. These words just appeared in his mind as if they were a natural part of his memories. Wang Wei frowned before returning to normal. My request is simple. I need a karm-free cultivation technique that allows me to see my existence blueprint. The technique cannot be directly implanted in my mind nor use an information talisman. It must be written in books in the common Dao language of the Chaos Universe, and it has to be a technique that my current self can cultivate. Wang Wei has been thinking about his Fate Seed status for a while and concluded instead of asking Grand Dao for help, it would be better to rely on himself. So, he asked for a way to detect his status as a Fate Seed so he could devise a way to erase it himself. Grand Dao looked at him briefly before disappearing, leaving a world of books. Wang Wei checked, and the number of books could fill the entire observable universe. That's how many they were. He then immediately checked the content. Everything is labeled accordingly, Wang Wei commented. He could have been more specific but left many loopholes just to see whether Grand Dao would play with his request, and based on how it reacted, Wang Wei could deduce how trustworthy this request was. So far, there doesn't seem to be any problem, Wang Wei muttered. He will have his wife and many other people check this technique, but there doesn't seem to be an issue as of now. He put the books away before continuing his retreat. He did not hesitate to take the mind dilation pill and the other soul nourishment pills. He stretched his mind dilation to the limit, achieving a level of 1 second outside equal to 10,000 yuan epochs in his mind. Then, he started comprehending the essence of the lock. Over the years, he tried to learn it and had some success, but the nature of the information inside reached the level of transcendence, meaning it required a lot of talent and time to understand truly. Time felt endless, and if not for the fact he was focusing on a task, Wang Wei had a feeling he might have gone mad after experiencing so long in such a short period. It did not help that his soul started hurting after 50 years had passed on the outside. Regardless of the pain he was experiencing, Wang Wei pushed himself to understand the nature of the lock and found a way to break it. Once that was done, he took some time to plan out his next moves before finally focusing on Grand Daos technique. Wang Wei ensured he knew this technique from front to back. In fact, during his long cultivation journey, he has never spent so much time on one method. The amount of time he spent understanding that thing was longer than he had been cultivating up until now. Everything makes up our blueprint, Wang Wei thought as he looked up at the white space with dots, lines, and shapes. Our memories, actions, achievements, past life, luck, and even information we absorb from the environment will affect our existence, in one way or another. The blueprint has elevated Wang Wei's understanding of existence to a higher level. His move and he soon found what he wanted, the part of his existence influenced by fate. Wang Wei had to comb through much information and even experimented on himself before he found a few line groups that did not belong. I should have done this sooner, Wang Wei thought as he had just learned the higher his cultivation realm, the harder it is to remove the influence of these things from his life. Moreover, will it be that easy to remove this seed title? I doubt it. He shook his head, not focusing on the difficulty of the task. Now that he had identified the problem, it was time to solve it. So, Wang Wei did not immediately end this retreat but spent a little more time redefining his plan before he finally left his exit. The first thing he did was to swallow a few pills to heal and soothe his soul. The effects were immediate, but Wang Wei soon noticed his soul was growing. The constant pressure from this pill and the act of healing actually increased his soul's quality and quantity. He reacted swiftly by sealing the growth of his soul, ensuring he could use it for later. That was closed, Wang Wei muttered. He was still living under the lock's effect, so this growth could have cost him his life. While healing, Wang Wei summoned Red Mask. I know only 300 years have passed, but how are things proceeding? Better than I expected, Red Mask responded. The Xie clan has been helping us integrate. They have even handed us countless resources. Oh, they are responsible for the entire sect's spy network, Red Mask added. So, their help has been more than valuable, but I just wonder why they are doing it. It's probably an order from Shadow Ruler, Wang Wei responded. Qiuan was already preparing to hand over the reign, so it made sense for the others to do the same. Did you discover why these two families are hostile to me? The Zhou clan had a legacy disciple that wanted the primal seed position, Red Mask explained. Sadly, he embarrassed himself during the seed trial. They are not happy you received the position without passing the trial. If that's their only problem, they will be easy to pacify, Wang Wei nodded. Qiuan has already hinted to him that the unity of the sect must be preserved to ensure their prosperity in the upcoming Transcendent era, so Wang Wei's goal is to make these families submit willingly under his command. What's the Su clan's problem? Their issue stems from the D12 Fiend God Revolution body, Red Mask replied. They are dissatisfied that only the three main clans have a human Fiend God bloodline. Wang Wei squinted his eyes. In fact, all the other clans and Yukai from the sectarian faction are also dissatisfied. However, they understood this issue required all the ancestors to decide, so they kept quiet. The Su matriarch is a hothead, so she did not keep quiet and complain nonstop about this issue. I can't believe I've been causing trouble before even ascending, Wang Wei chuckled. Lord, what are you going to do? The other clan's approach is right. This is a matter that needs the ancestors' authority, Wang Wei replied. He had no problem with the technique being spread. Still, there needed to be rules and restrictions to prevent other people from stealing his idea and to prevent the sect from turning into a bloodline faction that relied entirely on their blood for progress. His current strength and prestige were insufficient to make these rules, so he had to wait for the ancestors' return and discuss this issue. What should we do about these families? Red Mask asked. Leave the Su clan alone since they are only talking, Wang Wei replied. As for the Zhou clan? It'll take the test in a while to shut them up. As you wish, Red Mask nodded. Do you have any other instructions? No, you can continue your work. Wang Wei dismissed her before contacting Sect Master Yu Kai and Great Elder Yan Shui. You lasted 300 years, such willpower, Yu Kai said as he shook his head to show his envy. The world seems peaceful and quiet now, but all know this is just the surface, Wang Wei replied. What can we do for you? Yan Shui asked. The elderly woman understood they were now at a tipping point in history and their actions would have severe consequences. I need you to do 3 things for me, Wang Wei said. The first of which is simple. I only want to take the primal seed trial. Yu Kai and Yan Shui looked at each other and understood, so they nodded without saying another word. The second thing is about. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1417 The Path to Paragon. For the second request, I need you guys to summon the mortalhood trial, Wang Wei stated. The world is locked, so how are we supposed to do that? Yu Kai asked with a frown. For a moment, he thought Wang Wei was purposely asking them to do something impossible. You don't need to summon it to our world but to our branch of the River of Time, Wang Wei explained. The lock does not influence that place, and currently his power is at an all-time weakness, making this the perfect time. For his plan to succeed, he needs to become a paragon, and this trial is the only way he could think that would allow him to increase his cultivation realm in the current state of the Eternal Ascension world. That approach might work, Great Elder Yan Shui said. We might need to tweak the ceremony a little, but it's doable. The mortalhood trial will not only allow people to become paragon, but it could also be the only way for people like her to return to their former peak. Let's not get too excited too quickly, Yu Kai added. The ceremony requires the luck of most of the world's geniuses and heaven-chosens, meaning we will need the cooperation of the other overlords and top paragon lineages to proceed. The desire for these people to increase their strength is as high as us, so there should be no problem with the suggestion, Yan Shui stated. I know this, but I just want to reiterate that the process will not be as easy as stated, and I will need a little bit of time to negotiate with these people, Yu Kai explained. The return of the Overlord's destiny will embolden these people, and many will try to bargain with you about this ceremony, trying to take a lead role, Wang Wei stated. Don't play to their nonsense. We will set a date of 300 years, and your attitude when conversing with them is that they can participate if they want to. Is that a little too short? Plus, we really do need them for the ceremony. They don't know that, or they are not sure, Wang Wei stated. So, we will act as if they are not that important. When they realize we might be training paragons in this cage era, they will immediately accept our offer and may even bring gifts to ensure they have a spot. We don't need to be soft when negotiating with these people, Elder Yan Shui nodded. I know what to do, Yu Kai nodded. Good, Wang Wei nodded. The third request is that I need a lot of existence healing pills. How much are we talking about? Yu Kai asked with a frown, and Wang Wei handed him a paper with a number. This is too much, Yu Kai immediately rejected. Before the ultimate taboo, we created a bunch for reserves, and the ancestors never had the opportunity to use them, Yan Shui added. So, we have a lot of reserves, but even so, your demands are too high. Is there a reason you need so much? I need them for my Paragon tribulation, Wang Wei explained, but his words did not alleviate their concerns. However, he did not further elaborate. I can access the Origin Seal Continent's treasury, but Wu Hong already used most of her reserves. In that case, we need to change things. The price for participating in the mortalhood trial will be at least 5 pills per individual. Isn't that a little too much? Not at all, Wang Wei replied calmly. Just like us, they must have prepared these pills for their ancestors but never had a chance to use them. Additionally, we need to limit the number of paragons born in this era, which is an excellent restriction method. Not to mention the loose cultivators, Elder Yen Shui added. They will hear the news and complain. Setting up a restriction is a great way to shut them up and limit their number as well. You two make excellent points, but I'm worried your approach will backfire, Yu Kai explained. If you're not up to the task, you can leave it to me, Wang Wei suddenly said. No, I can do it. Good, he patted Yu Kai's shoulder. I know I could count on you. Yu Kai was immediately flattered. Wang Wei might not know it, but his reputation in the world was loud and prestigious. After all, he single-handedly engineered the destruction of the Seven Moon Era, and he's the reason this world hasn't headed to the abyss yet because of supreme unity. So, despite his lack of presence, people, especially the top lineages and overlords, know him very well. Yu Kai left the room with great confidence. However, after this old fox was alone, he realized Wang Wei's little trick and could only shake his head and praise the man's charisma. What do you think of him? Elder Yen Shui asked after Yu Kai left. He's talented but insecure about his position, Wang Wei commented. Plus, he doesn't seem to grasp what it means to be the sect master of the Dao opening sect. You can't blame him, Yen Shui said. He lived in an era in which the sect's pride and prestige was at its lowest. For most of his reign, all he knew was bowing and cowering to ensure its survival. The time he had to experience the pride of an overlord was short, to say the least. Wang Wei nodded in understanding. He did not care for Yu Kai's emotional state as long as the latter was capable of doing his job. So, he changed the subject. Where do I go for the primal seed trial? You haven't used your token, have you? Yen Shui replied. Put your divine sense into it, and you'll have access to all the information you want. I see, Wang Wei thanked him, and they chatted briefly before the great elder left. Wang Wei did not immediately use his token but summoned the flame blacksmith instead. The Overlord's destiny has returned. Do you plan to return to the Skill Dao Association? Wang Wei asked directly. No. I owe you quite the karma, and I'll return only after I repay my debt, the flame blacksmith replied truthfully. He was not an ingrate, so he would not just abandon Wang Wei now that he could return to his faction. That's good to hear, Wang Wei nodded. The people from the Skill Dao Association will arrive soon, and you can introduce yourself to them if you wish. It's not a bad idea to start laying out a deeper connection or alliance with our two factions. I understand. And if they ask you about the Dao Path Tablet, your answer is you don't know. Understand? Flame Blacksmith hesitated briefly. I understand. But they are our future allies, and such a thing must be returned, but there is a time and a place, wouldn't you say so? After all, the Dao opening sect went to a lot of trouble to recuperate it from the hands of these villains. What you say makes sense, Flame Blacksmith nodded while sighing. Wang Wei dismissed him before teleporting to check on the Ma clan. I was right, Ma Liqiu did do something to her clan's existence, Wang Wei thought. He suspected Ma Liqiu was planning on using the Paragon he cultivated to revive herself, but he never had any proof. However, today he peeped at this clan's existence blueprint and found a loophole to help her revive. Her method is indeed sophisticated, but I could still tamper with them if I please, Wang Wei analyzed. However, he had already designated Ma Liqiu as an ally, so there was no point in messing up her revival. I can start training the Ma clan, but there is no need to allow them to participate in the current mortalhood trial. Ma Liqiu's revival cannot be this early, and even if Wang Wei wanted to give them a spot, none of their members were Empyreans, so it was too late for them. Wang Wei secretly left their dimension and finally used his token. Does the sect have their own internal version of the Void Illusion Realm? This token connected him to this Dao Connection Realm, which was basically the sect's version of the Void Illusion Realm for all disciples and elders to communicate and learn. Wang Wei even saw a version of the simulation his dream world had, which allowed disciples and elders to simulate techniques and pill refining in the Dao Connection Realm before learning in the real world. How modern, Wang Wei commented. The way the upper dimension sects operated was indeed more modern or advanced than the lower dimension. For a brief moment, Wang Wei had an absurd feeling that he was back in the modern world. He shook his head to remove those feelings before registering an account, followed by watching a few recordings explaining his rights and power, navigating the Tao connection realm, and finally, the basic sect rules. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1418 Reunions I. By using his token, Wang Wei directly teleported to the Primal Seed trial, and with the first test, he understood why few people could get this position. His first task was to defeat a Paragon projection with 90% strength. In other words, the minimum requirement for this test was to enter the taboo realm in the Empyrean realm. This test was not an issue for Wang Wei, and he passed without much effort. The second part of the trial tested his soul. The second requirement for the position was a Paragon soul while in the peak of the Empyrean realm, and the soul has to be at least 92%. The third test was for willpower. The trial had a way to quantify willpower based on a Paragon's cultivation, and the minimum requirement for this test was also 92% willpower. The fourth trial tested the Tao Foundation, and the minimum requirement is a Tao reestablishment that achieves 1 root strength. The final test of this trial involved accomplishment. The owner of the Primal Seed token must have something remarkable, for example, acquiring the Paragon Slayer title. Although Wang Wei did not get the title, he has done countless remarkable things, including ending the Seven Moon Era and saving the world from Supreme Unity's evil machinations. The news immediately spread through the Tao communication realm after Wang Wei passed the trial with passing colors. He did not hide his trial, so anyone could use their tokens to watch the process. Not long after his triumph, the Zhou Patriarch visited Wang Wei and brought gifts. Although the Patriarch did not say anything about his previous animosity, he displayed his attitude with the gift, so Wang Wei accepted it. The other clans came to congratulate him but did not bring gifts like the Zhou clan. However, they showed more respect than they did during the first visit. Yan Hai left the position for him, but it was different when he showed that he could acquire the position on his own. Overall, Wang Wei's position in the sect was strengthened after this trial. Time passed, and less than 5 years after releasing the news, the first guest arrived in the Tao opening sect, and they were Wang Wei's acquaintances. In fact, they directly visited him. "Lady Sun, it's a pleasure to see you," Wang Wei said as he motioned for her to sit down. "You know him here too," Xiao Tiandi complained. Wang Wei ignored him, serving tea to him, Lady Sun, and the last visitor, Chen Shu. "You're the extraordinary chef, right?" Wang Wei said. "Yes," Chen Shu nodded. "Thank you for saving my disciple." "The little girl that abandoned me after meeting his master?" Wang Wei said casually. Ever since he sent that little girl to her master, she never returned, meaning he lost a talented chef from his team. "She did not abandon you. I'm a little protective of her now, so I didn't allow her to stay outside," Chen Shu swiftly explained. "But I promise to repay you for what you did for my disciple." "That's good to hear," Wang Wei nodded before focusing on his primary guest. "So, Lady Sun, have you been well lately?" "Life would have been better if I wasn't poor," Sun Junyao replied, making Wang Wei speechless. "If you have something to say, you can be direct." "Good," she nodded. That's what she wanted. "I've successfully gathered the ticket for me and my apprentice, but am short of one for Chen Shu. I would like for you to do me a favor and allow me to pay for another spot using anything else than those damn pills." Sun Junyao had plenty of resources but did not have many existence-healing pills. She used her connection to get 10 pills, but she needed an extra 5 for her trusted chef. "That's a small issue," Wang Wei agreed. "What do you want as payment?" Xiao Tiandi asked. He did not want to owe this bastard anything. Wang Wei raised his hand to display a projection of a world. "This is a small clan called the Hui family, which focuses on the Tao of cooking. I need Chen Shu to accept one of their members as his disciple and teach them all his skills." The development of the Hui clan involved whether Wang Wei could one day make his future wife admit his cooking is better than hers, so he hasn't forgotten about them. Sun Junyao did not agree on Chen Shu's behalf. Instead, she looked at him to make a decision. "It may not appear so, but my techniques require high talent," Chen Shu said. "It's okay. You can take your time to find someone talented enough or even artificially create such a talent." "In that case, I don't have any issue." Wang Wei nodded, and in front of all of them, he sent a message to Yu Kai asking for a ticket for Qin Shu. Once the latter confirmed the process, their deal was officially concluded. "Thank you," Sun Junyao said, and Wang Wei accepted her gratitude. He was then prepared to chit-chat with these people before sending them away, but it seems that all their objectives were not accomplished. "One more thing," Xiao Tiandi said. "If you want to ask me about the mortalhood trial, I know as much as you do," Wang Wei said. "No, that's not what we wanted to know," Xiao Tiandi replied. He took a moment to recognize his thoughts. The 7-moon era has ended, and all signs indicate your next target should be the lock next. Wang Wei frowned but did not interrupt. "We wanted to ask you for advice on the upcoming era," Xiao Tiandi asked. Wang Wei mulled it over, thinking how much to reveal or whether to say anything at all. "Well, we've been allies for a while, and I can trust you guys to a certain extent." He raised his hand to hide the secrets of heaven and earth in the surroundings. His cautions raised the others' guards to the highest level. The world will face another major catastrophe once the lock is gone. "Well, shouldn't we be entering the era of Transcendents?" Xiao Tiandi asked. "It seems you know a lot," Wang Wei uttered. "What catastrophe?" "The board needs to be reshuffled before the Transcendents era," Wang Wei said. "So, a catastrophe targeting the overlords," Sun Junyao summarized. "That's right," Wang Wei nodded. "However, as you can imagine, no catastrophe is simple. If things go wrong, foreigners will occupy the eternal ascension world, and the Transcendence era will have nothing to do with us, the natives." The room became silent as these three processed this news. "Can you stop this catastrophe?" Xiao Tiandi asked. "There are too many players involved, and am powerless to stop it," Wang Wei replied truthfully. Such simple words have revealed much information to the three of them. "What do you suggest we do to survive the upcoming chaos?" Xiao Tiandi asked directly. "Find a backer," Wang Wei replied. "Many transcendent powerhouses will be involved, and by then, Sun Junyo's perfection essence will be greatly sought after by people who seek the transcendence path or transcendents who want to return to their peak." "Are you suggesting we join Buddhism?" "That's an option. However, we will have a home advantage in this catastrophe, so you can expect more transcendents appearing amongst the overlords and top lineages. You can choose one of them as your backer." Chen Shu was quiet while the pair of master and disciples were deep in thought. They glanced at each other and communicated with their eyes. Although Wang Wei didn't know what they said, he could tell they must have come to an initial agreement. "Thank you for this information," Sun Junyao declared, preparing to leave. "No problem," Wang Wei said. "But I should warn you, you will be instrumental in destroying the lock, so you should prepare early." Sun Junyao suddenly paused and Xiao Tiandi quickly asked, "Is it dangerous?" "Obviously. In that case, the world's destiny is not mine alone to bear," Wang Wei cut him off. "Everyone must contribute if we want a chance at escaping that disgusting cage." "I understand," Sun Junyao said. "I'll be prepared." Wang Wei nodded before escorting them out of his mansion. "Her perfection is indeed different from mine. My perfection focuses more on my cultivation foundation, while hers is the core of her entire being. She can probably achieve half-step transcendence as long as she can spread that perfection to her body and soul. However, once her soul becomes perfect, she'll become like a machine as all her emotions and desires evaporate, just like Grand Tao." Wang Wei knew the technique would bring him countless benefits, but he did not expect it to this extent. Seeing someone's blueprint is the best way to see their innermost essence. It's like having a key to the universe's deepest secrets. The path of imperfect perfection is indeed the best way forward for Sun Junyao, he commented. "Although this path is not suitable to me, the idea of a perfect fleshly body to achieve transcendence is worth exploring. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1419 Reunions 2. Isn't nothingness be considered perfect? Wang Wei asked himself. If there is nothing present, no matter time, space, or concept, there is no flaw to have, so it could be argued that nothingness is also a perfect existence. Numerous thoughts flashed in his mind. Now that he has established a connection between the main power of his flesh and Sun Junyo's, he can learn from her. One of the steps for the flesh to be sanctified is one immortal characteristic. I chose the power of nothingness, and I've been cultivating that characteristic since then. What if that characteristic is also the key for the body to achieve transcendence? If I can spread that characteristic through a decent part of my existence, similar to Sun Junyo's perfection, I can eventually sublimate my body to a higher level. The highest level of nothingness is true nothingness, and once my body has this characteristic, it will officially sublimate to the realm of transcendence. A light of wisdom flashed in Wang Wei's eyes. No, what I'm talking about is the transformation process, not a true method itself. If Wang Wei's body ever achieved transcendence, then his existence would change based on his thoughts. However, he still hasn't considered a method to achieve said transformation. A direct manipulation of my existence is not as simple as stated, especially when it involves transforming or evolving into a higher being. Sun Junyo's perfection is innate, making it easier for her to manipulate, but even someone like her cannot just increase the perfection of her body and slowly evolve into a transcendent being. I need a concrete method, a step-by-step idea, Wang Wei thought. Let's see. The body has 3 gates, and opening each one grants exceptional powers. The third gate, the gate of flesh, allows a cultivator to be on par with a paragon. So, what if there were a 4th gate? No, it doesn't matter whether the body has a 3rd gate. The path of transcendence is about self-reliance, meaning I could still build a 4th gate even if there isn't one. Wang Wei immediately entered a state of epiphany. What do I need to build the 4th gate? The gate of transcendence. First, I would need to push my flesh to the absolute limit of the 3rd gate. Second, I would need to deeply understand the concept of essence, so I know how the gates are created and why they represent the potential of the human flesh. Finally, I would combine my understanding of essence with its power of nothingness as the foundation to build the 4th gate. Wang Wei woke up from his enlightenment and felt this idea was feasible for his transcendent path. However, he also realized he was missing many necessary things to make it possible. Mithria's technique? I need to see a true method of transcendence before I can make my own. Wang Wei had some minor understanding of the transcendent path due to his Qi Luck Dragon, comprehending the lock's secrets, and more importantly, learning the blueprint existence technique. All these have granted him some advantages for when he becomes half-step transcendence, but he felt they were not nearly enough. I hope she shares that technique once the lock is dealt with, Wang Wei thought. Mithria or even Supreme Unity's technique would significantly accelerate his transcendent path. Still, he was confident he could do it without them, especially now that he had a concrete idea that he could follow. Without their technique, it would only take longer, and Wang Wei might have to take the risk to try and observe their existence with his new technique. What a good day, Wang Wei thought as he returned to his retreat. Now that he had a way forward on his transcendent path, he was in the best mood he'd been in a while. Time passed, and Wang Wei had to open his eyes after a few decades. Finally, back to the Empyrean realm, Wang Wei thought. Being able to see his blueprint had many advantages, one of which was he knew the best way to heal his existence injury and return to his former cultivation realm. I should return to my peak before the 300 years are up, Wang Wei muttered with a grin. He walked out of the room. What's the urgency? Lady Shishangyan wanted to see you, Wang Qi replied. She was very insistent. Oh, let her in. Wang Wei prepared the tea, table, and dessert, and a beautiful woman in yellow with star-like eyes walked into the room. He situated her before him and served tea. How have you been? As good as anyone can be in these trying times, she replied. True, Wang Wei nodded. But something seems on your mind. Shi Shangyan sipped her tea. As you already know, the lock has stranded the celestial race in the source Qi space, leaving a few of us. Shi Shangyan paused as she blushed a little. The mortalhood trial is an important event, an opportunity one cannot pass down. However, without access to the clan, I cannot pay for those 5 pills. No need to worry, Wang Wei immediately reassured her. The Celestial Clan is one of the first groups to believe and invest in me, so this is the least I can do. I promise to repay you as soon as I can contact the clan, Shi Shangyan promised. Wang Wei wanted to refuse but realized this girl was thin-skinned, and his refusal might make her even more embarrassed. No problem, Wang Wei agreed calmly. I can give 2 additional spots if you wish. No, 1 is fine, Shi Shangyan swiftly denied. If you say so, Wang Wei nodded. The two chatted briefly before Shi Shangyan left for her accommodation in the sect. Many people should come to visit, so don't go into a deep retreat, Wang Qi warned, and Wang Wei waved him off. The latter was correct as another visitor came by soon, Su Shi. Your eyes scream of your tiredness and loneliness. Well, hello to you too, Wang Wei said, trying hard not to roll his eyes. Who said these things are their greetings? Do you want me to play you a song? Su Shi suggested. I doubt your music can do anything for me, Wang Wei replied truthfully. There are a handful of people who can soothe his loneliness, and these people are either in the lower dimension, have disappeared, or are sealed in the dark truth. So, it's that bad, huh? Don't mention this, Wang Wei said. What brought you here? Su Shi glanced at him before saying, Your tickets are too expensive. How many pills did you gather? 12. That's way more than I anticipated, Wang Wei acknowledged. The academy was only an Emperorian lineage, so it was rare that Emperor Kong gathered enough pills for 2 tickets. How many did you need? 2 extra tickets, Su Shi revealed. We are willing to pay something of equal value. That's not an issue, Wang Wei agreed and directly contacted Yu Kai to facilitate this deal. Afterward, the two chatted for a few hours, and at Su Shi's insistence, she played him a song. Unfortunately, Wang Wei was correct when he said only a few people could genuinely help him. As he watched Su Shi leave, he was deep in thought. The Chaos Demon Gods definitely had members of their kind that achieved half-step transcendence through the flesh. If I can get their bloodline, the chances of condensing the 4th gate would drastically increase. Wang Wei was already scheming. In the upcoming Catastrophe, Lin Fan will definitely play a significant role as a pawn of the Chaos Demon God. So, if he played his role correctly, Wang Wei might be able to get his hands on their bloodline through him. Let's wait and see, Wang Wei thought with squinted eyes. His next guest was somewhat unexpected. You're the only one participating in this trial? Wang Wei asked. No, the others will arrive later, Ao Shen calmly replied. That's good to hear, Wang Wei nodded as he served wine instead of tea. While you're here, I'll take this opportunity to thank you again for the ceremony. Ao Shen was one of the 22 sages who participated in the ceremony, meaning he also sacrificed his level 1 golden body of merit. The world was in danger, and it was my duty to help, Ao Shen said. Plus, I understand the possible benefits later on once the lock is dealt with. Regardless, Wang Wei nodded. So, what brings you here? I doubt the demon race would need any aid to gather the ticket price. Not at all, Ao Shen replied. The Star Sage sent me to give you a message. Oh. She said it was all right if you did not take the demon's side. She only asks for your neutrality. Interesting. Are the innate demon gods about to make a move? Wang Wei thought. Tell her I will take this in mind. Ao Shen did not stay long, and Wang Wei's guest arrived less than a year later. His guess was soon proved correct as the guest was an old acquaintance, the primordial dragon Ao Tianyi. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1420 Reunions, 3. I haven't seen you in a long time, Wang Wei commented as he served Ao Tianyi the tea. Yes, it has been a while, the dragon nodded as he accepted the tea and sipped it. You look different, Wang Wei added. How so? Your aura doesn't have the former arrogance that you were the most important thing between heaven and earth. Ao Tianyi almost choked after hearing these words. No, it's even more extreme than that. It's almost as if all your pride and arrogance are gone, Wang Wei continued. Well, Ao Tianyi sighed. My father gave me a wake-up call and showed me the world's truth. Sounds like a good father, Wang Wei praised. He only took a small sip of his tea as he was tired of drinking tea. Although these meetings were a dozen or even years apart, he still felt they were too frequent, which is why he did not desire any tea or wine. Maybe, Ao Tianyi replied. He was happy his father woke him up from his stupor of arrogance and pride, but a part of him was resentful that he did it in such a rough manner. That terrible trial broke Ao Tianyi's spirit and rebuilt it step by step, and he was not happy with the experience. So, what brought you to see me? Wang Wei asked directly. I'm here for two things, Ao Tianyi replied. Firstly, it's about our clan's ancestral talisman. Ancestral talisman? What does that have to do with me? Nothing directly, Ao Tianyi replied. We believed it was in Sun Junyo's hands after she killed Blood Dragon. The temple has been trying to recover it, but she is hard to find. Our information network indicated you had a close association with her, so we hoped you could help us regain the talisman. Then you'll be disappointed, Wang Wei replied. Don't be in a hurry to refuse yet, Ao Tianyi said. We are willing to offer you an additional 20 pills. That's an interesting offer, but that won't change my mind. How about 30 pills? Wang Wei frowned. Since when is your temple so wealthy? We are probably the oldest faction, so why are you surprised by our wealth? No, you should have already wasted most of that wealth, Wang Wei countered. Ao Tianyi coughed in embarrassment. Anyway, you only need to know we are very wealthy regarding existence-healing pills. Is that so? Wang Wei muttered. So, what do you say? I can't help you get the talisman back. Wait until I'm finished. Wang Wei raised his hand to stop him. For the same price, I can help you communicate with her to come to an agreement. So, you make no promise of success? My relationship with her is that of close acquaintances, so I couldn't guarantee success even if I wanted to, Wang Wei replied. However, I can promise to persuade her, but if she refuses, I won't use any force or any kind of coercion to help your temple. Ao Tianyi mulled it over and accepted this offer. All right, but if the negotiation fails, I hope you don't intervene in our effort to retake the talisman during the mortalhood trial. That's fine by me, Wang Wei responded before contacting Sun Junyao. Their negotiation was swift and the opposite of challenging. Sun Junyao is a remarkable woman, so she understood the danger of having a target on her back by one of the overlords. So, she agreed to return to the dragon talisman, and what she wanted in exchange was a few void-breaking talismans created by peak paragons. These talismans were not as good as the dragon talismans, but they made up in value with the number she asked for. Ao Tianyi wanted to refuse, but under Wang Wei's guarantee and protection, Sun Junyao finally got her asking price. I am one step closer to breaking the fate line between us, Wang Wei contemplated calmly. Was there a need to go to this length to protect her? Ao Tianyi complained. I always treat my friends well. I thought she was only an acquaintance, Ao Tianyi rebutted, and Wang Wei smiled, showing all his perfectly neat and white teeth. Let's move on to your second problem. I have a feeling that's the primary reason you visited me. Ao Tianyi became serious. Our temple has predicted that your sect did ask for these pills simply to limit the number of people participating. There is a high chance you were in grave demand for some reason. Wang Wei frowned. So what? He knew he wouldn't be able to hide the truth once the mortalhood trial started, and he started using these pills. Additionally, his tactic was an open one, meaning it was useless even if someone guessed his objective. Here, take a look at this. Wang Wei took the gourd and opened it. An intense medicinal smell enveloped the room, and he immediately felt his injury improving. So potent, he asked before swallowing one drop. Is that holy dragon water? That's right, Ao Tianyi said proudly. The holy medicine of curing existence injuries. We can provide you with an entire pool. Holy dragon water can only be created in the tombs of Tier 12 dragons and other innate demon gods, so it was understandable why the pre-March origin temple has such a vast quantity. It also explained why they had so many healing pills, since the diluted water can also be used to make existence-healing pills. And what do you want in exchange? Wang Wei asked, even though he already had an idea. We only ask that you ban the demon race from participating in the mortalhood trial, Ao Tianyi said seriously. Wang Wei muttered, taking a moment to think it over. I can't do that. Why not? Ao Tian asked with a frown. I believe our offer is more than satisfactory. There are many reasons, but the primary one is that my desire for this holy water is personal, and I cannot use it to interfere in the matter between the demon and innate demon gods. Ao Tianyi understood his meaning. The battle between these two factions was a political event that all overlords must be careful about. The Dao opening sect has always remained neutral, at least openly, regarding this conflict, and if Wang Wei accepted their deal, that would change their sect's entire public stance on the matter. How about we double the price, and in return, you only need to limit the number of demon participants, Ao Tianyi stated. You can find an excuse that can keep your public neutral stance. The answer is still no. Many publicly neutral overlords have done secret deals with us and the demon race, so why can't you do it? Ao Tianyi argued. Don't tell it's about principles. You have overestimated the power I have, Wang Wei replied truthfully. What do you mean? Such a decision with such repercussions is something that the four ancestors must decide, Wang Wei revealed. I may have a lot of power, but if I try to decide on this matter, I guarantee that all the other clans and factions would stop me. I forgot about this, Ao Tianyi grunted, and Wang Wei shrugged. He was telling the truth. This is not something he could decide with his current political power in the sect. I heard you were great at convincing people. Can't you just convince them? Let's say I convince them. What will happen afterward? Wang Wei asked. What do you mean? Do you think the ancestors will be happy I made such a major decision without them? Wang Wei continued. How will they see me? Wang Wei was not talking nonsense. Qiyuan and his brothers might not say anything to support him, but it was something else for the desolate emperor. From what Wang Wei knows about the latter, he was extremely vocal and not afraid to contradict the other three. There is no point in ruining my future potential for this deal, Wang Wei said. Anyway, there is no point in trying to stop the demon race. With this holy water, you can buy twice, no, thrice their number of spots. And your sect would allow that? Ao Tianyi asked. I can make an exception to get the holy dragon water, Wang Wei nodded. However, don't forget the contract you signed that said we are not responsible for what happened to your people inside the trial. Ao Tianyi looked at him, wondering what game he was playing. Additionally, we can buy the water from you with different resources, Wang Wei continued. It's not for sale, Ao Tianyi said directly, obviously showing his dissatisfaction with the failed agreement. Are you sure about that? I am. One of our supreme elders has this unknown relationship with the demon race's star sage, meaning he has been biased regarding all decisions the sect made regarding your two factions, Wang Wei said with a strange look. Now is your chance to cultivate a better relationship with me and balance his bias, and you're refusing? Ao Tianyi's lips twitched due to how speechless he was. Not to mention your temple owes me karma for bringing back the innate demon gods in the lower dimension, Wang Wei continued. Are you sure you want to refuse? You'll contact my father before making a decision, Ao Tianyi finally relented. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.